Trump. To the east in Colorado, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert's running in retired Congressman Ken Buck's safer 4th district, leaving her 3rd district behind. She's facing several challengers there. And in South Carolina, a runoff in the state's 3rd district goes down between the pastor backed by former President Trump, Mark Burns, and the nurse backed by Governor McMaster, Sherry Biggs. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
And the Biden administration with a big setback Monday with its student loan bailout program. 2 federal judges siding with several Republican-led states Monday, partially blocking the Biden administration from moving ahead with key parts of the student debt bailout initiative that was set to take effect July 1st. I'm Sue Guzman on the Fox News Rundown.
This is the Fox News Rundown.
This is News Talk STL on 1019, 94.1 and newstalkstl.com. Columbo and Katie.
It looks like former President Donald Trump has already made up his mind on who his running mate will be in 2024. We'll discuss this with Crane Durham at 2:25 on Tuesday.
Weekdays at 2 on News Talk STL.
Is your retirement income at risk if you or your spouse needs nursing home or in-home care? Hi, I'm Eric Robert, Director of Investments with the ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel and host of On the Money, Saturday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL 1019. The cost of long-term care is one of the biggest risks in retirement planning. For many retirees, a single nursing home stay can cause a significant reduction in assets that can permanently reduce your retirement income. Fortunately, there are affordable and flexible options available today that can help you manage the cost of long-term care. Our team can help you address the risks relevant to your retirement, including long-term care. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com or call us at 636-695-2650. That's clearpathinvesting.com or 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
Tony Colombo here, reminding you to visit my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton before your next trip into the great outdoors. For decades, Bluff City Outdoors has covered all the needs for area fishermen, and they'll always have all the best bait, tackle, and gear for your next trip on the water. And now they cover all your bow hunting needs, including their state-of-the-art indoor archery range and techno hunt system, open every day for you to come shoot, or you can join a league. Follow Bluff City Outdoors on Facebook and learn more at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
This is the actual precedent set why Bernie Sanders cannot have a 32-hour work week.
The Department of Labor wishes to report that the workers of Fredonia are demanding shorter hours. Very well, we'll give them shorter hours. We'll start by cutting their lunch hour to 20 minutes. Where's Fredonia?
Oh, it's right.
Oh, here we go.
It's on the southern part of Gooberstan. Yeah. And of course, Rufus T. Firefly was the leader of Fredonia.
Vic Porcelli, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL. The O'Reilly Update, brought to you by Seavers JCB. Visit them at their St. Peter's location.
Bill O'Reilly here, and I'm warming up. Stand by for the O'Reilly Update Morning Edition. But first, are you feeling the impact of the recent changes in the timeshare industry? My friends at Lone Star Transfer are the only company I trust to help you. For more than a decade, they have successfully helped over 20,000 owners get out of their timeshare with an A+ rating at the Better Business Bureau. Customer service is their priority. For a free consultation and a guaranteed solution, 855-551-7066 or go to LoneStarTransfer.com. On this Tuesday, let's channel the late night comedian Bob Hope cracking wise about this Thursday's presidential debate. So, I'm looking forward to seeing the Biden-Trump storyline. This is what Bob Hope would be saying. Or as they call it in Hollywood, Lost Boys Part 2. You know the president is prepared. He and Barack Obama have been holding hands all week. Not too bad, right? Jon Stewart could use me. Unfortunately, the debate could be one long joke. I hope not. We need some political definition in this country. Millions of viewers remain confused. The debate in Atlanta will most likely not deliver much that is new. Joe Biden is the drama king here. Will he get through? the 90 minutes without wandering off stage and mussing up Jake Tapper's hair. In the opposing camp, Donald Trump needs to use facts to make his case that the country is in decline. There are many examples. Trump needs to hone in on 5 big ones and pound those home to the overwhelmingly pro-Biden moderators. Then, at the end of the exposition, Trump might morph into Jack Nicholson in the movie A Few Good Men. Standing on the stage, the former president takes a pause, stares at the camera, and says to America, "You want me on that wall. You need me on that wall." Whereupon President Biden gazes out into space and says, he's being facetious. Back after this. If you own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles, listen up. CarShield is a low-cost monthly vehicle protection plan now available to you. This protection plan is at an all-time low price. Please call 800-925-7584 for a free quote. Drivers who activate today will also receive free roadside assistance and towing at no additional cost. That is 800-925-7584 right now. That is the Morning O'Reilly Update. More analysis later on.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A First Alert Weather Day issued for Tuesday. Heat and storms we'll need to watch. Let's start with the heat. Expecting a low of 81 and a high of 100. Heat index around 106. So heat advisory is in place from noon to 8 p.m. on Tuesday. Now, something that could make it cooler. Not a guarantee they develop. About a 20 to 30% chance of afternoon storms. But if they do get going, could make it cooler, but also they could be strong to severe. So we need to watch that. Then Tuesday night after midnight into Wednesday morning, a chance of some strong storms. And a cooler day on Wednesday. In the afternoon, it'll be dry with a high of 89. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
The Missouri Army National Guard can help you get the education you need to land the career you've always wanted. The Guard will pay up to 100% of your tuition for up to 39 credit hours per academic year at 90 colleges and tech schools across the state. You're eligible as soon as you enlist. Learn more about the many benefits that come with serving part-time in the Missouri Army National Guard. Visit NationalGuard.com today. Sponsored by the Missouri Army National Guard. Aired by the Missouri Broadcasters Association and this station.
News Talk STL.
First thing in the morning and pretty much all day.
Live and local. 101.9 and 94.1. News Talk STL. For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com. Having your first cup of coffee? Mike's on his third. This is Mike Ferguson in the Morning on News Talk STL.
We've had a couple of good rulings from the U.S. Supreme Court when it comes to guns. We've had a bad ruling from the Supreme Court. At least I think it's a bad ruling from the Supreme Court when it comes to guns. But you know what they have not taken a look at? The cases coming out of Illinois, you know, the semi-auto ban and the registration and all the things that are being challenged in the state and federal courts. So where do we go from here? We're going to have an update for you on that just a little bit later on today. Hey, good morning. I'm Mike Ferguson. Thanks for making News Talk STL part of this Tuesday. Don't forget, tonight is our Saving America 2024 event in St. Charles. I'm going to be there. Gabe's going to be there. Most of the News Talk STL crew, we're going to be there. I hope you are going to be there. If you've already got your tickets, please make it a point to come on out and break bread with us, maybe have a drink or two with us, and let's just chat and, make the world a little better place and have some fun in the process. So I really look forward to seeing you there. Please find me. Please grab me. Please say hi. I want to I just want to chat with as many people as I can tonight. So let's do that tonight at the Funny Bone at the streets of St. Charles. Okay, city of St. Louis, notorious for doing a number of things like wasting money on things they shouldn't be spending money on, trying to tax things they shouldn't tax, and trying to get around legal issues they create for themselves. Let me tie all those together. The courts have said they could not tax people who did not live or work in the city. This goes back during the whole COVID shutdown era. And the courts have said you were taxing people that 1% earnings tax and you had no legal right to do it. So they've had to admit they've got to refund the money. But how easy are they making? Are they still trying to hold on to some of that cash? Well, we were joined by Andrew Wilford from the National Taxpayers Union. They've taken note of what the city of St. Louis is doing from Washington, D.C. Here's what Andrew had to say when he checked in with us on Monday.
You guys look at a lot of national stuff, but the St. Louis one's on your radar, and I appreciate that it is. So for those, maybe just here's the 30-second Cliff's Notes version of this. The city has this incredibly ill-advised earnings tax and extra income tax. They were charging it to people who were not working in the city, saying, well, but your company's in the city. That's good enough for us. Well, the courts have said, no, they didn't work in the city. You owe them that money back. And so the city has settled and said, fine, we'll give the money back. But that's not the end of the story. Where are we with this?
Yeah. So again, thanks for having me on. St. Louis, as you mentioned, they keep losing court decisions. So they reached a settlement. And rather than just saying, we'll give the money back, as you said, they've set up a 3-month refund period tucked away in between July and October when people aren't thinking about income taxes, where people have to go and file themselves in that 3-month period for a refund or they're out of luck. Obviously, that's a lot more complicated for taxpayers than just getting the money that they're owed. And I think St. Louis very much thinks that they're going to save a lot of money this way. Save a lot of money, meaning save more of your money that they're going to keep.
Good morning, Andrew. Gabe Pfeiffer here. So shouldn't this kind of be illegal? Yeah. Maybe it's just me off the top of my head. It's like, this money you owe me, shouldn't you just give it back? Do I have to apply for it in a small win? That seems like you're still just keeping money you stole from me.
See, but back to the guy that goes, well, actually, no, I'm sorry, Andrew. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. It's the legal technicality here is that they came to this agreement as part of a settlement. So the court case that they kept losing was 6 individual taxpayers who filed for a refund, and the court basically told them that they're right, they're owed this money, but they didn't grant them class action status. So they didn't say this lawsuit applies to everyone who's filed for a refund. This is just a narrow lawsuit. So that's how St. Louis is able to get, offer this quote unquote settlement that actually ends up being, so disadvantageous for taxpayers.
So then would it be incumbent upon somebody, I guess, to sort of step up as a representative of the rest of taxpayers and make this a class action? Because it would seem to be a cut and dried ruling at that point, right? Or is, because this is a settlement, it would still be up for litigation?
Well, that's my concern. I'm afraid that the fact that St. Louis is offering the settlement might make it harder for another group to then sue and say, we just want them to, we want St. Louis to pay people back, because anyone who could sue would then, be someone who could have filed for this refund that St. Louis is technically offering. The far easier solution would be for the state to just say, to just require St. Louis to pay out these refunds. And, the state's considered legislation over the past few years since the pandemic that would have done that would have just said that St. Louis has to pay out these refunds. But it's always gotten tied up in other unrelated tax issues.
Good morning, Andrew. Stalpontikas here. You just kind of touched on what I was going to ask, because the city's been saying over the past, I don't know how many months, we've got all this extra money. Look at all these pet projects that we can throw that money at. So why can't they use some of those funds?
Yeah, I mean, you sort of touched on it earlier that this is just a classic case of, city has money and they don't want to give it back. Mm-hmm. There's not many governments out there that will gladly and willingly return your money to you when once they have their clutches on it.
Oh, now on this one, they said, now all those pet projects Stell was just talking about, on this one, they said, well, I guess we're going to have to cut emergency services because we have to give back. It's just so disingenuous. We're visiting with Andrew Wilford from National Taxpayers Union. Okay, so the city offers the settlement on this. So they say, okay, you can come get your money back. But what are the steps that they're asking for? You've already talked about the narrow window on this. So they collected this money over the course of years. but they're having just a short weeks or a few months worth of a window. Are they making it difficult or complicated or hard to find the avenues to get your money back?
Well, they're gonna release a new refund form on July 1st, so it's not out yet. They'll probably, tuck it away on the Collector of Revenue's website somewhere. And, really just the fact that you have to actively, affirmatively go do it yourself is the barrier, because I think a lot of people, they won't even hear about it in this period of time. And if they do hear about it, I think St. Louis is hoping that a lot of people will say, oh, I don't know if it's actually, I don't know how much this is actually going to save me. Is it worth the time to go on this website? But I hope people will, because, not only is it the money that you actually paid, you're also owed interest on it too. So over the course of 3 years, that can really add up.
Yeah, because you're talking about 2000, 2001, 2022. Now, they have not, as I understand it, Andrew, they have not started the process for the 2023 collections are going to have to refund. So we're talking 2020 through 2022. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's for the July through October window. There's a bit longer of a window that you can you can file for a refund up until the normal refund date. April 15th in the coming year for 2023. Well, if you're doing one, you should do all of them. Yeah.
So do you have to have any burden of proof, or do you just have to put in your name and employer or something? I mean, I would think that they've got the records of who they collected tax money from, because they've got to send the tax statement at the end of the year. So as you mentioned a little bit earlier, they know where they got the money, but if you've got to go in and do one or two or whatever multiple steps there are of this, somebody may say, I didn't make that much money this year. It's probably not worth the trouble. And that's what they're counting on. So there's a principal argument on this, but there's also a financial argument on this as well. I mean, if you work at your home office for a company and you make $75,000 a year, well, they took 1% of that over the course of 3 years. That's a pretty good amount of money they owe you.
Yeah, and you mentioned the difficulty. I think there is likely to have to be some. Your employer's probably going to have to verify that you did work from home those days. I mean, there's payroll tax implications for businesses as well. So hopefully they're on board with helping you out. But that is an added layer of complexity. But certainly this is money you're owed. St. Louis's justification for taxing people over this period of time has essentially just been, we need the money, which is a justification to tax anyone. There's no limit on who could be taxed under the basis of we want money. So I think this is even just on, as you mentioned, even just on principle, you should get your money back, because this is a real overstepping of the bounds here by St. Louis.
Would it be possible for the state legislature to step in and actually make a law to require that they pay this money back, essentially?
Yeah, so the state house actually passed a law that would have done that this past year, but it didn't get taken up by the Senate.
Right.
They've considered laws pretty much since the pandemic started that would do this. It just hasn't gotten quite gotten over the finish line. I'm afraid also that this settlement will take some of the momentum out of that, and I think that's part of what St. Louis was thinking when they did this settlement. So hopefully that doesn't deter state legislators from finishing the job here.
Yeah, Andrew, I mean, I know you're not from St. Louis, but here's the thing is that our state legislature is a tad bit dysfunctional as of late. Just so
particularly the Senate.
Yeah,
I've heard.
Okay, so here's another question. I just had one come in on social media, and they asked what if it was from before that period? So, for instance, if you were working remotely before 2020, 2021, 2022, in this case, she's asking, or he or she is asking, 2017 through 2019, and they were taxing you and you weren't working there, does this apply to that, or is it just for these years?
So they shouldn't have been if it was before 2020, because this was something they, I don't want to say a program, but a tax assessment that they started applying after the pandemic started. So if they were taxing you before then, you are especially owed a refund, because they never even claimed they had the right to do that.
Okay.
So So it shouldn't apply to those years, but if it does, then certainly apply for a refund.
Okay, let me ask you about 2024 and beyond right now. So somebody is working outside of the city and they're working for a company in the city. Are they still being charged that 1% earnings income tax and then will have to get it refunded, or are they not being charged that, or are they supposed to not be charged that? What's the status moving forward? Or is this just going to be a revolving door if they're going to try to tax anybody who's involved with a company that's domiciled in the city, and then they can maybe come get it back and they'll just hope to keep some of it? Or are they not taxing people they're legally not supposed to be taxing?
Yeah, the part of the settlement was a requirement that the city stop claiming that it has the right to do this. So it shouldn't be a problem moving forward. That being said, this kind of thing is like playing whack-a-mole. So I certainly wouldn't rest on my laurels until. Again, I think this is another reason why it's a good idea for the state to just step in and make it clear what St. Louis can do and what they can't, because clearly they think they can do a lot more than they can.
All right. Andrew Wilford from the National Taxpayers Union. I know that you'll have written about this. It's on your website. How do they get in touch? We've tagged you on our social media, but how do people get in touch with you?
Website's over at www.ntu.org. All my information's on there. Happy to answer any questions that anyone has.
Hey, Andrew, thanks for the update. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks so much.
We've got the first morning news dump coming your way here in just about 2 minutes and 14 seconds, right here on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. This is News Talk STL. News, analysis, and opinion from the voices you know and trust. News Talk STL at 101.9, 94.1, and newstalkstl.com.
Tony Colombo here, along with Tim Jones for Rodney and Jen Wallner, the Wallner home selling team at Berkshire Hathaway. Rodney and Jen are the #1 home selling team in the area, and I could say that from personal experience. They sold our old home faster and for more money than we thought possible, which put us in a great position as we tried to find our perfect new home. And with help from the Wallners, that's exactly what we did. Christine and I couldn't be happier with our experience working with Rodney and Jen Wallner. And Tim, the numbers speak for themselves.
That's right, Tony. Everybody knows the Wallners sell 15 times more homes per year than the typical realtor. And if you're looking to sell your home, right now they have so many qualified buyers, they'll guarantee to obtain you an offer. They're licensed in both Missouri and Illinois, so no matter where you are in the St. Louis region, you can put the Wallners experience and work ethic to work for you. If you've been thinking about selling your home, don't wait. Call Rodney and Jen Wallner now at 314-810-SOLD. That's 314-810-SOLD. 314-810-SOLD for the Wallner home selling team.
Steph's Pizza is on the move to Lake St. Louis. That's right, you can now get the legendary Steph's Pizza and Pasta in Lake St. Louis, 111 Pond Fort Trail. Steph's Pizza, where Mondays you get a large pizza for the price of a small, and it just got more convenient for pickup or delivery in Lake St. Louis. Steph's Pizza in the Chesterfield Valley on Long Road, in St. Peters on Jungerman, and now in Lake St. Louis at 111 Pond Fort Trail. Check them out at stephspizza.com. Tonight's a good night for Steph's Pizza.
You can't buy a best friend. You can love them, walk them, pet them, and care for them, whether they want you to or not. You can take a picture or 50. You can fly to the moon, travel the world, or just stay in bed. You can't buy a best friend like that, but you can adopt one. There are millions of pets waiting for a best friend just like you. Help us save them all at bestfriends.org.
The tides are changing.
St. Louis's new choice for conservative talk.
The Democratic Party doesn't stand with what I stand for.
News Talk STL.
Hey everyone, this is State Senator Nick Schroer. I am the host of Stand and Fight every Sunday night. Right now, let's hear more of Mike Ferguson in the Morning Show here on News Talk STL.
Wake up, America. It all worked out. They got all the news.
The morning news dump.
All right, as violence continues to consume the city, St. Louis officials say it again. Darn you, Republicans.
Oh, yeah. Convenient target.
Their fault. Yep. Julian Assange makes a deal to be set free.
How about that?
This is interesting. Yeah, we'll get into details on that in just a moment. And there's an alligator. Where?
Oh, no. Here in the area?
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. All right. We'll get to that here in a second. All right. After another violent weekend in the city of St. Louis, multiple people shot, multiple casualties. City officials are making the case that their programs are working. Mayor Tashara Jones tells KSDK, kind of a one-on-one interview she did with one of their reporters, that her office's strategy is still to rely on social programs and similar outreach efforts. This is from Channel 5.
It has to be all hands on deck. And our Office of Violence Prevention has contracted with over 30 agencies, grassroots organizations, to prevent and intervene when violence when necessary.
And of course, nowhere in that report was there mention of police being underfunded and below the staffing levels that they need to be. In that interview, she also blames Republicans in the state legislature for opposing gun control laws in the city that would clearly violate the Second Amendment and would do nothing. We'll get into this, what the mayor had to say, and also kind of the pathetic reporting of Channel 5 again, just ahead here. All right, President Biden has approved over 1,000 fewer leases on federal lands for oil than happened during the Trump administration, despite the White House saying that they've increased the number of oil leases. Senator John Haven, who is a Republican out of North Carolina, was on Kudlow on Fox Business to talk about that.
They're also grossly inflating the number of leases available right now to go ahead and be drilled. That number is a lot lower too. So what in the world's going on here? Unbelievable. And clearly this is something that in the Senate Energy Committee we're going to look into.
No, they can look into it all they want, but the bottom line is they're choking off the supply of oil and the demand has not gone down.
And I like his Blazing Saddles comment.
That's right.
What in the wide world of sports is going on here?
Exactly. All right. Well, speaking of the Biden administration, the Biden campaign doubling down on abortion ahead of the debate that's coming up on Thursday.
President Biden marked the 2-year anniversary of the overturning of Roe v. Wade by emphasizing his support of abortion rights. In a series of social media posts, he repeatedly called for the restoration of Roe and blamed Donald Trump for what he called this nightmare. Trump has repeatedly taken credit for the overturning of the 50-year Supreme Court ruling that guaranteed a right to abortion. However, the former president has resisted supporting a national abortion ban. Greg Clugston, Washington.
That's the rub right there. If you've seen any of those social media posts, and for some reason I've been getting them on my Facebook feed, they all say that Trump wants a national ban. No, he does not.
No. Trump is backed away. Trump is basically not really that pro-life anymore.
It's go ahead and send it back to the states. That's where it belongs. And these guys are lying. The Democrats are lying, saying that he wants a national ban.
Right. Because he's made it very clear he does not.
Exactly.
He does not. Matter of fact, he opposed the bans in Florida and Arizona. He opposed their pro-life laws in those states. So, but
I don't get it.
Yeah, I know. It's just all big, confusing nonsense. But the bottom line is that the left knows that if they are going to leverage back anything on this upcoming election, this is one of the issues that they're going to win younger voters with.
Yeah, they're going to zero in on it, obviously.
Yeah, without a doubt. Because I think a lot of the division and hatred they try to drive in the 2020 and the 2016 and the 2012 elections over race and all these other things, they're just losing those. They're losing those battles. There are enough people who are saying, wait a minute, my life is worse since Bidenomics came into effect. I'm not making as much money. I'm not keeping up with as much money. So they're looking for social issues to exploit. And that's what they're doing on this. Yeah. And the Democrats are saying we want a national law to basically reinstate Roe through the legislature, through the Congress, because the Supreme Court basically just ruled in the absence of a law. This goes back to the states per the 10th Amendment, which was the correct constitutional ruling.
That was fine
on this. Oh, but yeah, expect to have abortion really kind of shoved down everybody's throats here. All right. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange set to plead guilty to a felony in a deal with the U.S. Justice Department. In a statement, Assange's wife, Stella Assange, says she believes there's a movement behind him of support. Here's what she had to say.
Throughout the years of Julian's imprisonment and persecution, an incredible movement has been formed, a movement of people from all walks of life, from around the world, who support not just Julian and not just us and our family, but what Julian stands for, truth and justice.
Assange was released from a British prison Monday. He is set to appear in court this week, expecting to plead guilty to an Espionage Act charge, according to a Justice Department letter filed in court. Basically, the sentence they've agreed to seek is what he's already been in prison.
And he will return to Australia.
Yes.
Seavers JCB is where you need to go for the industry's best compact track loaders, featuring the iconic single-arm JCB power boom and side door entry. JCB compact track loaders are stronger and safer than conventional twin-arm machines, and they deliver the power and performance you need. For a limited time, get financing rates as low as 0.99% on new JCB compact track loaders, or take a generous cash incentive. Stop into your local Seavers JCB or visit seaversjcb.com.
Dreaming of upgrading your outdoor space? STL Fenceworks is the choice for you. Our skilled craftsmen build custom fences from modern vinyl to classic ornamental, fitting your style and budget. Elevate your outdoor living with low-maintenance decks designed to relax and entertain. We choose only top-quality American-made materials, ensuring your project is built to last. Your satisfaction is our passion. With over 50 years of experience, custom designs, and exceptional customer service, visit stlfenceworks.com today.
What's the best way to get rid of a timeshare that you don't want? Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline. We're a group of attorneys that help customers legally exit their timeshares. It's an easy process. We guarantee results or you pay nothing. Exit your timeshare today. Call now.
800-524-1641. 800-524-1641. That's 800-524-1641.
The Missouri Army National Guard can help you get the education you need to land the career you've always wanted. The Guard will pay up to 100% of your tuition for up to 39 credit hours per academic year at 90 colleges and tech schools across the state. You're eligible as soon as you enlist. Learn more about the many benefits that come with serving part-time in the Missouri Army National Guard. Visit nationalguard.com today. Sponsored by the Missouri Army National Guard, aired by the Missouri Broadcasters Association and this station.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. He is free at last. Released from an English prison, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange will be returning home to Australia. This is under a plea deal with the U.S. Department of Justice. Assange got into trouble for publishing classified U.S. military documents. President Biden will be allowing Iran to set up absentee polling places in the U.S. for the Islamic Republic's upcoming election.
The decision has sparked protests from conservatives who note that Iran remains the world's biggest state sponsor of terrorist attacks, including against Americans. Richard Goldberg with the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies told Voice of America, quote, "How and why we would facilitate such a charade for a state sponsor of terrorism that is hunting Americans every day is beyond me." The administration says this is not the first time that Iran has been allowed to use absentee voting stations inside the U.S. Bob Hagner reporting.
A lot of us are on the move.
If you think airports are crowded this summer, it's not your imagination. The Transportation Security Administration says it screened a record number of travelers on Sunday, just under 3 million people. The TSA expects to break the 3 million mark on Friday, as many Americans get an early start on their July 4th travel plans. The TSA expects to screen more than 32 million people between Thursday and July 8th. Airlines for America, a trade group representing the largest U.S. carriers, predicts that air travel this summer will rise 6.3% over last year. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
This could jeopardize Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's governing coalition. Israel's Supreme Court says that ultra-Orthodox men must be subject to the military draft in Israel. Watching Wall Street, the Dow futures are down 38 points. NASDAQ futures up 79.
More on these stories at townhall.com.
You just grin and bear it or bite the bullet when it comes to everyday pain? Don't. Try Relief Factor, a drug-free daily supplement that helps your body fight pain naturally. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain, it helps reduce or even eliminate it. It's 100% drug-free. It's developed by doctors. In 3 weeks or less, you'll know whether it works for you like it works for me. Try Relief Factor for yourself. Go to relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF and save on your first order. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF.
Hi, I'm Kevin Costner. I'm proud to introduce my new theatrical epic, Horizon, an American saga. There was a promise in America that if you're strong enough, if you're tough enough, you can make what's out there yours. It was not a fair place, but people aspired to be great. I think Horizon is all about that.
Horizon, an American saga. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent. Only in theater.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
I'm First Alert 4 Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton. A First Alert weather day issued for Tuesday. Heat and storms we'll need to watch. Let's start with the heat. Expecting a low of 81 and a high of 100. Heat index around 106. So heat advisory is in place from noon to 8 p.m. on Tuesday. Now, something that could make it cooler. Not a guarantee they develop. About a 20 to 30% chance of afternoon storms. But if they do get going, could make it cooler, but also they could be strong to severe. So we need to watch that. Then Tuesday night after midnight into Wednesday morning, a chance of some strong storms. And a cooler day on Wednesday. In the afternoon, it'll be dry with a high of 89. That's the latest from the First Alert 4 Weather Center. I'm Chief Meteorologist Steve Templeton.
This hour of News Talk STL is brought to you by Stifel, serving investors for over 130 years. Contact your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hey everybody, this is Levi with Thrive. Thank you so much for making us the 8-time winners of Give STL Day. It was a super close run, and I'm convinced that all of you hopping on and giving towards life is what pulled us over the finish line. It's because of your support that we are able to give babies the loudest voice and wave the life banner high over our city yet again. What a privilege it is to live in St. Louis, where life-affirming folks stand up for what they believe in. You're also really setting us up well for our end of fiscal year coming up on June 30th. It's this time of the year that our team is envisioning and strategizing for what it will look like serving abortion-vulnerable moms and dads in St. Louis. And your giving will largely determine our next steps. Would you consider helping us finish this fiscal year strong and keeping our local missionaries on the front lines? Every dollar you give will be double matched up until midnight on June 30th, and we have 70% Missouri state tax credit set aside for you. Go to thrivealivestl.org. That's thrivealivestl.org.
No big old corporate lib AM station telling us what to say here. Conservative talk for St. Louis. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com. Mike Ferguson.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Gabe Pfeiffer.
We have a hope.
Get up, in case you hear the alarm. Get up.
What do you call a genius in President Biden's Homeland Security Department? A visitor.
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up, in case you hear the alarm. Get up.
Good morning to the people of St. Louis.
All right, the Julian Assange legal battle is about over. He's headed for freedom after several years, both in jail and just hiding from the U.S. to avoid prosecution. Give you the update on that. Right now is a good time to download the streaming app and the News Talk STL app because Rumble is being goofy. And we're on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, right? But as far as Rumble, there's something glitchy on their end. So we're not on Rumble. But if you download News Talk's app, which is free, you can just take us anywhere and listen that way as well. That really kind of bums me out because I want to know what people think about the Assange situation here, which I'll get into in a minute, and the other stuff we're going to talk about here. It is 6:06 right now. Got Gabe here, got Stell here. I'm Mike, as you know. Tonight, Saving America event in St. Charles. So if you got your tickets, you're still going to come see us, right?
Right.
Come on out and see us. No, it's going to be good. We've got Zach and Joel going to be in studio with us here in the 8 o'clock hour, kind of give us a preview of the event, but just also look at, the overview. I mean, Saving America 2024 going to be at the Funny Bone in St. Charles at the streets of St. Charles. So newstalkstl.com for more information on that. It's gonna be a good time. Gabe and I will be there. Stell is gonna get his beauty sleep. And so which I should do, but as you can see, I don't.
And it would take me a few days if it were me.
Yeah, well, you've got a pretty long drive. back
Really
there.
long drive.
Yeah, so I mean, this is a lot of. It's kind of interesting because an event like this is kind of like it reflects what we're carving out here in St. Louis. Is you know, yeah, we're going to talk a little deeper about some stuff. You're going to walk out of there with some mental and intellectual ammo that you didn't have before, and you're going to have just a bigger understanding, of what's going on. And so it's going to be, and don't get me wrong, we're going to have a really good time as well while we're doing it. But I think there's still a demand and a market for that in a world of social media influencers who gain prominence by going onto college campuses and picking arguments.
Right.
Picking fights with arguments. And so this is a more thoughtful level of this. And you may say, well, is this for me? Yeah, it's for you. We're being told to dumb things down for the masses, and at News Talk, we're like, no, let's not do that.
Yeah. And we have such a smart audience too. I mean, I think there's a craving for, for a certain level of intellect craves a certain level of intellectual discourse. So that's why you guys are here, and we love you.
And that's also why I can get away with saying, all right, you're going to disagree with what I said. Let's talk about it.
Yes.
And so this is going to be fascinating tonight.
No tantrums here.
No tantrums. That's going to be fascinating tonight. So if you're going to be at the VIP thing, which is going to be great, I'll see you there. And then, of course, right after that, we'll have the event at the Funny Bone, and I'm going to get there a little bit early. So just, grab me and say hi. And, especially if you're one of our regular commenters on social media, I'd love to be able to put a face and a name with the handle and just chat with you. It's going to be a good time. All right. Julian Assange, he has cut a deal. So he has basically been a fugitive from the United States for 14 years.
Man.
So remember, he's the one going back. It's like, okay, which one was this? This was the WikiLeaks thing.
Yeah, WikiLeaks.
Where he had as his lackey, Bradley Manning, who now is going by the name Chelsea Manning because he's a confused pervert. But he, with then known as Bradley Manning, got access to a whole bunch of classified military information.
Right.
And, that sort of thing, and published it on WikiLeaks. And so the U.S. has been trying to prosecute him for a long time. He's been serving time for the last 5 years in the maximum security prison in England. And that was after spending 7 years hiding from the United States in an Ecuadorian embassy. By the way, you got some thoughts on this? 314-912-1019. Okay, so here's what's going on. His lawyers are arguing that the U.S. government provided blatantly inadequate assurances that he would have the same free speech protections as an American citizen if he's extradited from Britain, because the United States has been wanting to extradite him to put him on trial in the United States for basically conspiracy to access classified information and publishing it. He says that he says in his appeal that he was worried about the death penalty. I don't think the United States was going to put that on. I don't think we could on a foreign national because it's not treason if it's a foreign national.
Right.
It's a violation of our laws. But so what's going to happen is he is going to appear in a court in a U.S. Commonwealth tomorrow. And the deal that's been cut is essentially U.S. prosecutors, Department of Justice has agreed to seek a sentence that is equivalent to the time that he's been basically between prison and holed up in an embassy.
Exile kind of thing.
Yeah. So basically about 62 months. And that's essentially what they're going to ask for. And then the idea is
time served.
You're going to have credit, even though those are not in U.S. prisons. So he became known back in 2010 when Bradley Manning, everybody now knows him as Chelsea Manning, was the U.S. Army intelligence analyst, helped WikiLeaks release classified information, classified military files related to Iraq and Afghanistan. And some of those files were embarrassing to the U.S. because of some misdeeds that we did over there, but a lot of it was just classified U.S. information.
Yeah.
He was charged with 18 counts related to the website. He faces up to 170 years in prison for accessing the classified information and specifically going after it, basically. So it's okay. I mean this word in the legal sense, conspiracy.
Yes.
Meaning working in tandem with somebody else.
Right. And in order to commit a crime of some sort.
Right. Yeah. So Assange has been arguing, well, he's a journalist, so that makes it okay. And he exposed U.S. military wrongdoing is what they're arguing. And they said sending him to the United States to face trial would expose him to what they're calling politically motivated prosecution and a flagrant denial of justice.
Now, I've never quite looked into the totality of the Julian Assange case, and but one thing that always kind of struck me was where is the actual line? And this is probably a bigger question. Where's the line between being a whistleblower and being basically a spy?
Right.
And from the sounds of it, he kind of crossed the line into spy territory as opposed to basically being a journalist exposing something that brought to him by a whistleblower. Like, I think those are different ideas. So that's all I know about it, honestly. I imagine, though, that just in the zeitgeist that he's probably gained a lot more sympathy from people just because of how corrupt the federal government has proven to be.
Oh, sure. Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, for instance, I'm looking at Red State's article on this. I mean, I've read a few of them, but this one, Red State says, and it was written by Margaret Clark, the U.S. government says Assange's actions went way beyond those of a journalist gathering information, amounting to an attempt to solicit, steal, and indiscriminately publish classified government documents.
Right.
Well, it's actually a fairly accurate
that sounds
description
like
of it.
It's
just some people are saying, that no, it's justified because Bradley Manning's sentence, because he went to prison.
He was there for a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, of course, known as, if you're like, who's Bradley Manning? Well, he's known as Chelsea Manning. That sentence was commuted by Barack Obama in 2017. Barack Obama saying that justice had already been adequately served. Barack Obama at the time said, I feel very comfortable that justice has been served. Let's be clear. Chelsea Manning has served a tough prison sentence. The notion that the average person who is thinking about disclosing vital classified information would think that it goes unpunished, I don't think would get an impression from the sentence that Chelsea Manning has served. He's been, Julian Assange has been hiding or has been actually in jail. Now, remember, he was also accused of rape as well. And of course, he denies that.
Right.
But there's been all sorts of accusations against him. He's got some supporters. He's got other people to say you literally worked with an intelligence officer and convinced them to send you classified information so you could publish it. Make of it what you will. So we'll see what happens. He wants to go back to Australia where he's from. Once his plea and sentencing is set, then essentially if they say, okay, his time served is good enough between his time in the prison in Europe and being held at the Ecuadorian embassy where they protected him from United States extradition, then they'll basically say, okay, you've done your time and that's it. Then he'll go back to Australia where who knows what he'll do. Maybe he'll start trying to dig around for more U.S. secrets. I don't know. Who knows? Or maybe he'll go live on the beach and be done with it because he can write a book and he can live in celebrity status now.
And similarly, you've got the Ed Snowden situation.
Oh, yeah, Snowden's the one that
hasn't really been in the news very much at all. But Snowden also has a whistleblower type of situation. And then you wonder, okay, how does the government exposure compare to just being a whistleblower? And I think in both of these cases, boy, there's a lot of deep state stuff going on that we don't understand. But
I think that's the thing is that a lot of people, let's be really honest, it's really confusing.
It is.
It's like, wait a minute, who's the good guy? Who's the bad guy? Well, the government's the bad guy. Okay, but does that mean that exposing classified secrets to the world makes you the good guy? I don't know. I mean, so it's really confusing for a lot of people. There's no question about that. And I don't know. I mean, Snowden they're still working through that whole thing, but Julian Assange looks like his drama is about to be over. Sounds like he just kind of tapped out. He's like, I'm done.
Now you mentioned the whole book deal and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's like I could absolutely see that, but I guess that was kind of my question as you were finishing up the story. It's like, what do you do if you're a Julian Assange and you go home?
Yeah, I mean, he's still got WikiLeaks out there. I mean, he's still got his website. You know,
And it's like, does it sell advertise? Like, how do you monetize that?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of.
I don't think anybody's. He's not getting a deal from Post Cereal to have a commercial on running on his website. I don't think.
Okay, WikiLeaks is listed as a non-profit media organization. It's got a donate button at the top there.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't see any advertising on it. Oh, partners. Let me see here. Who are the partners? Oh, co-publishers, research partners, and funders. Oh, there's a big long list of this.
Okay.
Oh,
well, there you go. All right.
There's a bunch of them.
Well, that makes sense then. Then he's got patrons essentially. It's the old school style where basically private individuals give you money to do stuff that they think is worthwhile. Okay. All right.
Yep. Everything from let's see here. Everything from the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, the Nation, the New York Times, Telegraph.
They're considered patrons on that page.
I mean, they're listed.
Wow.
Let's see
Support.
here.
Well,
Rolling Stone, Russia Today, Public Citizen, a lot of leftist groups. There's a lot of international.
Now, what's the title of that list again? It's like supporters.
It is
funders and
co-publishers, research partners, and funders.
Okay. So, I mean, the Washington Post could be a research partner, and not necessarily a funder, kind of thing.
They're just all grouped together. The Associated Press.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Well, they have all published WikiLeaks.
Oh sure.
So that's how you can count them, I suppose, among your partners in crime.
I don't
not necessarily, specifically in crime, by the way.
Yeah. Exactly.
Our lawyers say.
Yeah, a lot of international stuff here, but a lot of stuff that's. I don't see any overtly conservative stuff on here.
Well, there's also that aspect of it.
So, well, there it is. But that's where the money comes from. So I'm sure he'll be able to meet his mortgage.
He'll be fine.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Another round of shootings over the weekend. Multiple deaths in the city. Mayor Jones responds by essentially, among other things, saying those darn Republicans.
It's our fault.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you why here just ahead on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Are we stopping the Renaissance? Is that what it's out?
Yeah. Yeah.
Renaissance haters.
To fight your war. Stop it right now. I have had enough of this. Turn my eyes to your indifference. Stop it right now.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com.
Get up, can't you hear the alarm?
Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Get up, what are you waiting for? Get up, get up.
Think about it. How prepared are you for the unexpected? Emergencies strike without warning, and we all know something big will be thrown at us soon. Being prepared makes all the difference. This means having a reliable food supply stored to use during tougher times. That's why at My Patriot Supply, we sell thousands of our 4-week emergency food kits every week. Each kit is packed with delicious, easy-to-prepare meals that provide over 2,000 calories per day. These kits are designed to stand by for up to 25 years, ready to use when you need them most. This week, save $50 on every 4-week emergency food kit you need. Simply go to mypatriotsupply.com and secure one for each family member. That's $50 off every 4-week emergency food kit. Order by 3 p.m. and your kit's shipped that same day. It's better to have emergency food than to need it and not have it. Shop mypatriotsupply.com. mypatriotsupply.com.
Feel the sizzling heat of summer savings at Seidenstricker Novi Partners. Rev up your summer on a John Deere compact tractor with 0% financing for 84 months with zero down. Or get 0% financing for 60 months with additional savings. It's time to elevate your equipment game. Don't let this sizzling hot deal slip away. Seidenstricker Novi, your partner for the land.
Offer valid through 7/26/2024. Some restrictions apply. See dealer for details. The Cardinals host the Reds Sunday, June 30th, and that day is all about the kids. 10,000 kids ages 15 and younger entering with a ticket will be able to field like the pros when they receive their very own Rawlings Kids baseball glove. Come early to enjoy prizes, games, and free frozen treats in the Ford Plaza at Prairie Farms Ice Cream Sundays prior to every Sunday home game. For tickets and details, visit cardinals.com/promotions.
This is Nolan Arenado, St. Louis Cardinals for the Lou.
L is for Let's, G is for Go, C is for Cardinals. Celebrate the ABC's The Cardinals Way at Busch Stadium on Sunday, June 30th. It's Sesame Street Day at the ballpark with something for fans of all ages. With the purchase of a theme ticket, fans can select either a Cookie Monster bobblehead or an Oscar the Grouch plush. Wearing card jerseys, of course. That's Sunday, June 30th, Sesame Street Day at the ballpark. For details or tickets, visit cardinals.com/theme.
This is Brendan Donovan, St. Louis Cardinals for the Lou.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hello, morning people. Tony Colombo and Katie Fitzpatrick here.
Thanks for listening to Mike Ferguson in the Morning here on News Talk STL. And don't forget to join us today at 2 for Colombo and Katie.
See you then.
I'm just having one of those days where I'm like, I'm just going to lean back.
Okay.
We're having conversations today.
All right. It's a chill day.
Chill day. Chill day conversation.
We got to be chill because of how hot it is outside.
It's going to be brutal out there today. It's going to be almost 100 degrees today.
Yeah.
Just actual temperature.
Mm-hmm.
So
yikes.
Do all the things to protect yourself and your pets and your plants and all that kind of stuff.
Supposedly 89 tomorrow, so it's going to feel cold tomorrow.
Well, we have some storms moving through the area?
I think overnight tonight there are some storms expected. Didn't sound like they would be severe, but at least it'll cool us off a bit.
Okay. And what are all your plants that are going to melt today? All right. St. Louis remains one of the most violent, deadly cities in America per capita. Okay. That's undeniable. You cannot argue that case. It just is. But guess whose fault it is? All right. So Channel 5 did this one-on-one interview with Tashara Jones, and their story, I mean, you should go look at it. It's really laughable. The reporter in the case does I'm sitting up straight, and what is your office doing to make St. Louis a safer place? And then just teeing up the softball question, with a tough sounding. It's really pathetic. It's gross almost. But we'll get to that here in a minute. By the way, we all know that the economy is shaky. Some things are going in the right direction. Some things, well, let's just say not going in the right direction.
Not so great.
That all affects the upcoming election. 6:35. We're going to talk about the possibility the Democrats are losing black voters over the economy and black unemployment. Is Donald Trump capitalizing on the failures of Bidenomics enough?
That's a good question.
Yep. So 6:35. Let's do it. 314-912-1019. Looks like Rumble is still down. All the other streaming video is up, so you can see us on Facebook and comment and send us messages there, and YouTube and where else? Twitter, I guess, as well. So we're on all of those, but we're working on Rumble. It looks like the problem's on their end, though. So just find one of the other ones, and we can still talk. Okay, so the whole world can see what St. Louis, I'm talking about the city, is doing and not doing. We can see that what's happening there is a failure.
With our eyes.
Yeah. But they are essentially doubling down on the ideology. So Tashara Jones did this one-on-one interview on Channel 5. And the questions had to do with, well, what's the city leaders doing to, to alleviate, to prevent crime, to make it a safer place? Because Stell mentioned, we're told that St. Louis is in a renaissance. That was the word Tashara Jones used, saying we're in the midst of St. Louis's renaissance.
Because we have that French background.
Yeah. The fleur-de-lis, the Renaissance. The Renaissance where you cap somebody every couple of days.
And lose your catalytic converter.
Right. Matter of fact, did you see this? There was another story this morning. A 74-year-old woman walking back to her car last night at Forest Park. Some teenage boy runs up, knocks her down, takes her keys, steals her car, drives off.
Oh, my.
Wow.
So she's like minor. She didn't get hurt bad, but she got hurt. And then they found the car a few hours later, and she got her car back later on. But a teenage boy just found a 74-year-old woman and just went up and assaulted her to pry the car keys out of her hand. and that was at Forest Park. So
Wow.
even like the few nice things in St. Louis City
Mhm.
are not going to be that way too much longer
Yeah.
unless something changes course.
It's a very much a this is why we can't have nice things situation.
Oh, but they're building new basketball courts at Forest Park.
Oh, well, that'll make it all better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No,
Mhm.
it won't. It'll actually be worse.
Yeah, it will. So here's part of what when Tashara Jones was asked, what is the city doing? What are city leaders doing to make St. Louis safer? Here's part of what she said.
It has to be all hands on deck. And our Office of Violence Prevention has contracted with over 30 agencies, grassroots organizations to prevent and intervene when violence when necessary.
Okay, so you know what was never mentioned in the article or in the clips of the interview that they played?
What's that?
The lack of staffing of police officers.
Oh,
the
no
funding
kidding.
of police. There was a throwaway line about, she's working with police, among others, but the mayor goes on to talk about behavioral therapists.
Oh my
and
gosh.
all this kind of stuff. And then they say, but part of the problem is with those Republicans in Jefferson City. Get this here. Check this out.
The blood is on the state's hands. The state has preempted us time and time again on passing common sense gun safety laws on the local level.
Oh, it's the gun safety laws
Right.
problem. Okay, so if only we had more gun safety laws on the books, then that poor old lady wouldn't have been
Right.
attacked by that kid.
All the people who are breaking the law to start with would suddenly go, well, I was going to carjack you, but the law says I can't have this gun. I better go turn it in.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah. First of all, to say that the blood is on the state's hands, this isn't just a difference of Republican and Democrat. This is freaking disgusting.
Mhm.
And then in the article, again, the pathetic reporting of Channel 5 of KSTK, they go on to say, well, national statistics show, and they cited as the source
Mhm.
that we're supposed to take seriously is
Mhm.
Everytown for Gun Safety.
Oh, come on.
That is their source to say these national statistics show, shootings and violence and gun ownership. That's also part of the bad thing. I mean, it is just pathetic.
That's disgusting.
I mean, it really is. And so when you see the article, when you see the interview or see the package report, the reporter in there, she kind of does the I'm sitting up stuff and I'm challenging you, but she's just handing the mayor softball questions in a stern tone of voice. I mean, it would be the equivalent of me like, you know what, Gabe, listen to me. I want an answer from this. What makes you so good looking and smart? Do not run from the question, Gabe.
It's like, I'm serious.
I mean, listen, I'm letting you get away. I will follow up with something else if you don't ask that question. I'm demanding answers right now.
So it was the equivalent of a very aggressive makeout session.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That's
all right. Journalism is dead. I mean, well, not only is journalism dead, basically they're parading its dead body around like Weekend at Bernie's and saying, look at me, I'm doing a journalism.
Yeah. And that's the thing is they'll do a story like this and they exclusive interview, which, okay, they got an exclusive interview, but they were softball questions and then citing a left-wing activist group as your source to say, look, national statistics show this. And they did mention, they say, Everytown for Gun Safety is an organization seeking reform. I mean,
is that all?
So
that's all.
Right.
Reform.
So yesterday I tell you about a story that they did where they did this sloppy wet kiss story for Moms Demand Action, another left-wing anti-Second Amendment organization, and then literally use their so-called news reporting to publish a fundraising link and say, if you'd like to donate, click here. So they're
That's
literally
exactly what they did.
Channel KSTK is literally doing fundraising for one left-wing anti-gun group, and now they're giving credence to another one by claiming that's the source of information. Go to the activist group.
Yeah.
Would they ever look at the National Rifle Association's reports on crime statistics that show how guns save lives? No, they would never do that.
Oh, they'd never cite that
because their journalism standards would never let them. But they'll use Everytown for Gun Safety.
You're exactly
Listen,
right. They wouldn't necessarily cite it's like, well, we can't use them. They're obviously a biased source. That's
Right.
what they would say. Why they wouldn't use those numbers, even though they're basically derived from the FBI statistics.
Right.
But they would use this specific advocacy group's numbers and not say boo about it.
Right. Exactly. So it's a joke We know that it's a joke. And then when they do stories like this, all it does is signal to the rest of the country it is too dangerous, and it's only going to get worse because the local city officials refuse to make the hard decisions and do what it takes to make the city safer. They would rather talk in sound bites like St. Louis is in its renaissance right now, and then blame somebody else. To say the blood is on the hands of the state is just disgusting.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it's just absolutely shows a lack of integrity and a lack of intellectual honesty on the part of Mayor Tashara Jones, period.
How long is it going to be before we hear the comparison of, you're seeing all this crime in the city? That's all cheap fake stuff.
Right.
It's cheap fakes.
Well, here's the funny thing is, like, they talked about those statistics.
Oh, yes.
And they say Missouri has one of these. Well, listen, take out Kansas City and St. Louis, and what does the Missouri statistic look like? It's going to be safer than probably any other area out there. I mean, the only areas where we've got the high crime and death rates and so-called gun violence is in the deep blue areas. It's basically not happening anywhere else.
Pretty much.
So they want to look at state statistics. Okay, let's break them down on a locator map.
By the way, on top of that, they've got statistics out there that people keep citing, like, hey, look, crime is going down. Except there are massive numbers of agencies that have simply stopped reporting,
right? Because
it's a voluntary system. These sheriff's offices and local police, they all volunteer to send their statistics up the chain to get, and that creates these national statistics as to whether or not we've got increase or decrease in violent crime. They're all stopping their reporting.
Well, now the state auditor has announced that he's going to audit the crime statistics in St. Louis.
The local ones. Okay.
And I have a feeling they're going to find massive discrepancies because, for instance, the string of dozens of car break-ins,
they're listed as one or something.
Yeah, they could be listed as one.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's bizarre.
Black unemployment and the upcoming election. Is Donald Trump doing what he needs to do to capitalize on that for the election? Let's talk to our friends, American Enterprise Institute, right around 6:36 here on 1019-94.1 News Talk STL.
Don't slam the door on your way out.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson in the morning. Tim Jones and Chris Arps in the afternoon.
We'll have Joel Griffith and Zach Smith live in studio to preview the live event at the St. Charles Funny Bone. And at 4:45, David Stokes of the Show Me Institute.
Tim Jones and Chris Arps. Weekdays at 4 on News Talk STL. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
A heat advisory from noon to 8 p.m. today. This is going to be the hottest day of the year so far. 100 in St. Louis. Heat index between 104 and 107. Be careful out there. Also have to be on guard for an isolated strong storm this afternoon, but much higher chances overnight tonight with scattered thunderstorms, some of which could be packing some winds down to 76 overnight tonight. Not nearly as hot tomorrow. The rain shuts down in the morning, and then it's 88 in the afternoon. That's your First Alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Does your life insurance plan include living benefits, hearing, diabetic supplies, teledoc service, discounts on urns, caskets, tombstones? Larry Connors here. I suggest you call Benjamin Schaefer at Senior Memorial. Call 314-866-8886 or visit memorialplans.com. Memorialplans.com. Senior Memorial Heritage Protection.
Tim Jones here with Dr. Pat Fader of Comprehensive Chiropractic. Doc, I hear you all have a new treatment program for everyone's chronic knee pain.
Tim, that's right. We are helping patients with chronic knee pain by addressing the root cause of their condition.
And what makes your program so unique?
Well, Tim, many programs focus on just one component of the problem, the structural component. Our program focuses on the metabolic and neurological component to complete the picture and improve our patients' outcomes. We get to the root cause of what is driving inflammation in a person's body and address it directly.
For your chronic knee pain and more, visit cchiropractic.com. All information, make an appointment at cchiropractic.com.
Mike Ferguson here. Retirement should be a time you can relax. No more stress from work. But there's one thing you can't forget about when retiring. That's your money. Do you have enough saved to fund your income for life and keep up with inflation? How will you claim your Social Security benefits? And what about long-term care? The ClearPath Wealth Management Group at Stifel is here to help answer all of these questions. You can hear their latest views on the markets and investing during On the Money, hosted by Stifel financial advisors Bob Stockdale and Eric Robert, every Saturday morning at 9, right here on News Talk STL. They can help you get organized, guide you through critical retirement decisions, and create an investment portfolio designed around your needs. To schedule your free retirement plan consultation, go to clearpathinvesting.com. That's clearpathinvesting.com, or call 636-695-2650, 636-695-2650. Stifel Nicholas and Company Incorporated, member SIPC and NYSE.
News, analysis, opinion.
I said from the very start that this was an abomination.
The things he said are off the wall.
These are sick, evil people.
He's about him. I'm about the country.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL. News Talk STL. Always streaming on your smart speaker, our mobile app, or newstalkstl.com.
Bill O'Reilly here. Check out the O'Reilly Update this afternoon at 3:45. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Oh, here you are. There's nothing left to say. You're not supposed to be that way.
There is no question that the last several years in our politics and in our campaigns have shown a lot of unusual things. Candidates going where it's unexpected, different demographics that we stereotypically assumed would vote one way, maybe shifting. Is that what we're in store for in this upcoming election for this year? Well, maybe. Let's find out. I'm Mike Ferguson. Interesting article I found at Real Clear Markets, and it was written by the American Enterprise Institute's Dr. Robert Cherry, who just up until recently was with the economics department at Brooklyn College. And first of all, Robert, congratulations on your recent retirement from there. But the article headline in and of itself caught my interest. It said, "Black unemployment is a weakness for Democrats that Trump exploits." And then when I go through the entire article, you're looking at the rallies that he's done, for instance, in the Bronx, in New York, and then in Detroit most recently. And so there's no question Donald Trump is campaigning in areas that Republicans typically don't go into, but we're seeing a response from demographics of voters, in this case, Black Americans, that is unlike what we've seen in past years. How do you sort of assess the framework when you talk about Black unemployment being a weakness for Democrats in particular?
Well, what I mean, and I had some data in the article and have more in a recently published book of mine, The State of the Black Family. What I find is that while broadly speaking, Blacks have benefited in the last decade in terms of more employment, access to better jobs, etc. There is a significant core that is being left behind in the central cities. It shows up in statistics for young Black men, 23% of whom are neither in school nor in paid employment, as I mentioned in the article. And I think the Democrats have no answer for that. It's a trifecta of kids coming from families without resident fathers, attending public schools that are often overwhelmed with problematic students, high absenteeism rate, etc. And they live in poor neighborhoods where there is often a pervasive gun violence that affects their own behavior. You have to be a tough guy to get through those neighborhoods. And being a tough guy doesn't get you ahead in mainstream society. So I think the Democrats have no answer for that.
When everything you just described, there'd be a lot of people who would say, well, that's been my understanding of our, urban cores, or many of the urban cores for decades now, going back to maybe even the 70s and the 60s. So when you look at black unemployment being a weakness for Democrats, is it because of that longevity of the problems that are in so many urban cores, or is there a different variable in recent years because of the types of jobs that are now available everywhere else, or different aspects of the economy?
Well, I think there are two things. One is the gun violence. It's much more pervasive in many of these neighborhoods. But the second thing is jobs. I have some dealings in Philadelphia. Philadelphia is a prime example of what are called med-ed cities. That is, cities that have a bloom of success because of medical and educational institutions. They don't have industry anymore, but that's what they have. Pittsburgh is like that. Cleveland, they're shell of what they were, but they have these med-ed complexes, and particularly in Philadelphia, they're incredibly successful. But what are the jobs that working class men could get? Working class, particularly working class black men. So I think that's the kind of change, that's been one of the kinds of changes that have impacted cities. The loss of industry and its replacement at a smaller degree with this med-ed complexes where for working class men, particularly black men, besides security guards, there isn't that much. Women, there's the health areas that they go into, clerical areas that they still can go into. But for these working class men, particularly black men, it's pretty difficult.
So let me ask you about the part of the headline and the part of the article where you're talking about Donald Trump exploiting that. What is it that he's doing that's appealing? Obviously, he's not the president right now. So what's resonating in those communities with from what he's saying or what he's doing or what happened in his administration?
Well, look, I think he talks more about this gun violence. Who knows what he's going to do about it, but at least he's talking about it in a way that resonates with the black public in many of these neighborhoods. And secondly, this immigration issue, that's on top of all of this. And, as I mentioned in the article, there's some evidence that it affects the jobs, but it affects much more than jobs. It's the communities where you have these shelters, it's the school system and the social welfare agencies that are inundated in many of the cities and come in conflict with the needs of the black community. So I think that's where he has a voice, both on the crime and on the immigration issue. And eventually, and there's also the school system issue, which at least other conservatives are pretty clear on the need to expand choice and particularly charter schools.
We are visiting with Dr. Robert Cherry from the American Enterprise Institute. The article, which you can find at Real Clear Markets, is Black Unemployment is a Weakness for Democrats that Trump Exploits. So when we look at the next few months, we look at the election that's coming up, is it a matter of the candidates trying to tell the black community, basically, here's the tone we want to set, here's how the discussion should go? Or is there finally a more real response to the needs of this particular part of our country and our society?
If you can answer that question, you can make a lot of money. Who knows? Are we going to rely on Trump following up on things he says? I don't think so. But the Democrats are bankrupt. The only thing that they ever say will throw more money at the problem. And it's a little hard now with them throwing more money at the problem for a variety of reasons. And they're unwilling to deal with behavioral issues, whether in the black community or anywhere else. So I think that it's unsettling because I'm worried that this will just be a little blip in this a little bit of a concern for real issues that face the Black community, particularly this core urban center group. Black college graduates and others are doing quite okay. But it's this core, and I'd like to be hopeful. I'm a half full kind of guy, but it's hard to be hopeful about Trump. And I think the Democrats are just unwilling to explore these issues in any way that will speak to the needs of the Black community.
All right. Once again, you can find the article at Real Clear Markets. Black unemployment is a weakness for Democrats that Trump exploits. And of course, we can learn more about what you're doing at the American Enterprise Institute at AEI.org, I believe. Right, Dr. Cherry?
Yep.
All right. If people want to follow the work you do, is that where to do it, or any social media or other websites or books you want?
No, that's about it. I give my email is robertc@brooklyn.cuny.edu.
All right, Dr. Robert Cherry, thanks so much for the insight. Really appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right. I know that what Dr. Cherry said there is not going to set well with a lot of people, with several people, but what do you think? I mean, where should we go from there? You've got to give Donald Trump credit for one thing, going into areas where I guarantee you that the consulting class, as our own Tim Jones likes to call it, tells Republican candidates, don't bother. You can't win there. It doesn't matter. Never go into that area. Well, he goes into the Bronx. He gets thousands of people who show up, not one of his typical MAGA rallies, but he had a big crowd. And then he goes into Detroit, very well received by some of the community leaders at that event in that I think was a church building, multi-purpose room. And so he's going into areas that other Republicans have not gone into. You give credit where credit's due. So where do you go from here if you are a big R Republican? Where do you go from here if you want to try to move the needle, not just on the votes, but on actually fixing the problem? Let's talk about it if you want. 314-912-1019. This is 1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
For podcast articles and more, find us on newstalkstl.com. Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Oh, here you are. There's nothing left to say. You're not supposed to be that way. Did they push you out? Did they throw you away? Touch me now and I don't care. But when you take me, I'm not there. Almost human, but I'll never be the same. No way down. I don't think I'll make it on my own way down.
This is so stupid.
St. Louis's.
Okay, I'm hanging up on you now.
Place to talk. News Talk STL.
1949, the last time a Republican held the top post in St. Louis City. A gallon of milk was 84 cents, and streetcars ran down Grand Avenue. The city was booming. Unfortunately, St. Louis city streets are no longer the epicenter of family and business life. In the 80 years of Democrat control, our city has been on a steady decline. St. Louis City Republicans believe it is our duty to provide a different path forward. Learn more at stlouisrepublicans.com.
Paid for by St. Louis City Republican Pat Curtis, Farber Treasurer.
Hey, I'd like you to get to know Dr. Daniel Cusimano and Dr. Megan Dwyer. Those are dentists and my dental team, along with their dental team at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles. You know, whether it's economic value with their dental savings plan and their real concern about giving you value, which is, of course, quality at a great price, or whether it's their personal values, their dedication to absolute precision. I can tell you when I go in and get my treatment there, or just a cleaning, whatever, it's always, I get this feeling it's like laser guided precision. Well, yeah, they have lasers, but they don't do that for everything. Of course, it's the right tool for the right job. Whether it is dental implants, whether it's just general dentistry, cosmetic dentistry, and by the way, he can use some Botox in all the right ways for those applications as well. You'll find the greatest of care, the greatest value delivered with people who have real values, the values we share at Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles. Get to know them by calling 636-978-0226, 636-978-0226, or advanceddentistrynow.com. That's Advanced Dentistry of St. Charles.
Looking to get a new carpet, hardwood, or tile installed quickly and efficiently in your home? Look no further than Michael's Flooring Outlet. Michael's Flooring Outlet is a family-owned and operated business with a 30-year history of offering a diverse array of high-quality options in flooring. My parents and in-laws used Michael's to rip up their old carpet and replace it. They are both happy with the product and installation from Michael's. You can shop at one of their 3 locations in Creve Coeur, Darting Prairie, or St. Peters, or you can check them out at igotfloored.com. That's igotfloored.com.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning is brought to you by Stifel. Request a portfolio review from your Stifel financial advisor at stifel.com. That's STIFEL.com.
Hi, it's Vic Porcelli.
And Ken.
Hi, Ken.
Hey, Vic.
Ken and I are on every Monday through Friday, 9 to 11, right here on News Talk STL. Right now, you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the Morning on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Whoosh, my morning people.
The Morning News Dump. Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks.
The Morning News Dump.
7:05, I want to talk more about this Julian Assange thing. And the thing is that if everybody's honest about it, there are a lot of people who are like, well, I kind of understand what's been going on the last 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of,
sort of, maybe.
It's really confusing, though. And that's okay to say it's really confusing.
Yeah, you're allowed to be confused about things in the news.
I'll get to the basics for you here in a second. Let's see here, the kind of the headlines here, my teasers. As violence continues to consume the city, St. Louis officials say it again. Darn you, Republicans. Of course, Julian Assange was talked about, and there is an alligator where?
Mm-hmm. Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I'm going to make sure I'm going to get to this one this time.
Yes, please.
All right. And after another violent weekend in the city of St. Louis, city officials are making the case that their programs are actually working. Remember, the goal that the Tashara Jones administration has put out is to reduce shootings by 20% over the next 3 years. Okay, well, it's measurable. That. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But Mayor Tashara Jones tells KSDK that her office's strategy is still to rely on things like social programs and similar outreach efforts.
It has to be all hands on deck. And our Office of Violence Prevention has contracted with over 30 agencies, grassroots organizations, to prevent and intervene when violence when necessary.
And she went on to talk about, behavioral cognitive therapies and outreach with trusted messengers. And nowhere in the story was there a reference to the shortage of police officers in the city based on what they should have.
Right. Yeah. And it's kind of crazy because all of these references about, oh, well, we need this law and this law and this law. Who's going to enforce those laws?
Exactly. Because she also bemoaned, saying literally that the blood is on the state's hands because they've gotten in the way of them passing unconstitutional gun control laws, which one will do nothing, but second just violates people's rights. And so she wants to blame Republicans in the state legislature. It's just beyond we disagree. This is intellectual dishonesty.
Mm-hmm.
All right. President Biden has approved over 1,000 fewer leases of federal lands for oil than did his predecessor, Donald Trump.
No kidding.
Even though the White House says they've increased the number of oil leases. Yeah.
Okay, so a blatant lie.
Right. Well, they may say, hey, first year we didn't do any, and this year we did 10. Look, we've increased them.
Oh, I mean, they're pulling one of those, maybe.
That's their approach.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is you've got, when you look at the new leases to develop, oil drilling and production, there's over 1,000 fewer in the Biden administration than there was the Trump administration. Senator John Haven from North Carolina was on Kudlow last night on Fox Business talking about that.
They're also grossly inflating the number of leases available right now to go ahead and be drilled. That number is a lot lower too. So what in the world's going on here? Unbelievable. And clearly this is something that in the Senate Energy Committee, we're going to look into.
Yeah, this is basically the Biden administration still trying to find excuses to hide behind extreme leftist ideology. And this is where it's just gotten very real. Look at the gas pump. Look at the cost of your groceries. Look at all of these things when they're trying to centrally plan your life. This is what happens.
Yeah, and then they just straight up lie about it. They'll say something like, "Oh yeah, we haven't prevented the oil companies from drilling. We haven't. Just look at this." I remember KJP specifically addressing this issue back in the day, and they've been screwing over the oil and gas industry for a long while now, ever since they got in office, and then expecting that they're going to drop their prices,
right?
Especially in time for an election, by the way.
Yep. All right. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is going to plead guilty to a felony in a deal with the U.S. Justice Department. Assange's wife, Stella Assange, says there's a movement behind him.
Throughout the years of Julian's imprisonment and persecution, an incredible movement has been formed. A movement of people from all walks of life, from around the world, who support not just Julian and not just us and our family, but what Julian stands for, truth and justice.
Okay, so Assange was released from a British prison on Monday. He's going to appear in court this week, expecting to plead guilty to an Espionage Act, charging him, according to a Justice Department letter filed in the court. So basically, they're going to look for a sentence that is the same amount of time that he's either been in hiding in an embassy and in jail otherwise.
Right. They're going to try to do the whole, time served essentially so he can go home.
Right. So it's even though it's time served with somebody else.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
All right. So apparently there's an alligator in Bonne Terre Lake.
In Bonne Terre Lake.
Yep. The Missouri Department of Natural Resources learned that the gator sighting and they learned of the gator sighting and alerted local police about it. The critter is said to be about 20 inches long.
Okay. Little guy.
Or girl. I didn't look that close. We're told it's not aggressive, but it's recommended that you do not find out for yourself if you happen to be hanging out at the lake and see a mini dinosaur.
Boy, alligators and bears. Oh, my.
Yes, that's right.
Not today, Satan.
Always be clear where you get your conservative talk.
The St. Louis Business Journal is now reporting that liberal billionaire George Soros is the largest shareholder of Odyssey,
the parent company of KMOX and 97.1 Talk.
Soros' maneuver raises critical questions about the future of media ownership and influence.
Money and attention is power. And when he has the money and he controls what's on the radio stations, he's going to be able to control the mind, potentially hundreds of millions of Americans.
St. Louis's trusted source and number one
for conservative talk.
This is News Talk STL.
Looking for the ultimate golfing experience in St. Louis? Look no further than Sugar Creek Golf Course. As the most popular golf course in the region, Sugar Creek offers 18 holes of challenging play, designed for all skill levels on rolling country hills with stunning views. But it's not just about the game, it's about the experience. Friendly staff, new Yamaha golf carts, freshly paved cart paths, and renovated clubhouse will make your day on the course a pleasure. Sugar Creek Golf Course, the perfect place to bring your team or friends together. Book your tee time today at sugarcreekgolfcourse.com. That's sugarcreekgolfcourse.com.
I have a personal story about why I trust McGuire Moving and Storage. A relative needed to escape an unhealthy relationship. Josh, Christine, and the McGuire team were understanding, even comforting. That's why I'm honored to endorse McGuire. Since 1935, McGuire's been moving and caring for families. So, moving a home, office, local, or long distance, McGuireMoving.com. McGuireMoving.com.
Hit the links in style this season with News Talk STL's brand new golf polo and hat collection. Available exclusively at Sugar Creek Golf Course, located off Highway 30 in High Ridge. Our lightweight, moisture-wicking polos feature the News Talk STL logo, keeping you looking sharp and feeling comfortable all 18 holes. And don't forget the matching News Talk STL hats to keep the sun out of your eyes while you line up that winning putt. Get your News Talk STL gear today at Sugar Creek Golf Course off Highway 30 in High Ridge.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Belfast, KNBS Bowling Green.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. It's been a breakthrough in the case of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange, released from an English jail after reaching a plea deal with the U.S. government over the publication of classified documents. Australian Foreign Minister Penny Wong telling lawmakers there, as far as the Aussie government is concerned, it is about time.
The Prime Minister and I have been very clear. Mr. Assange's case has dragged on for too long. Over the last 2 years, the Albanese government has advocated for him to come home. That advocacy has been led by the Prime Minister. And the Prime Minister has been very clear about the priority he gives to Mr. Assange's case.
Assange will plead guilty and then will be returning home to Australia. More men may get caught in the draft in Israel.
Israel's Supreme Court has ruled unanimously that the military must begin drafting ultra-Orthodox men for military service, a decision that could lead to the collapse of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's governing coalition as Israel continues to wage war in Gaza. The court ruled that in the absence of a law that distinguishes between Jewish seminary students and other draftees, Israel's compulsory military service system applies to the ultra-Orthodox like any other citizen. Under long-standing arrangements, ultra-Orthodox men have been exempt from the draft, which is compulsory for most Jewish men and women. I'm Charles Philadelphia.
The International Criminal Court issuing arrest warrants for Russia's former defense minister and its military chief of staff for attacking civilian targets in Ukraine. Evacuations ordered. Rural northern California because of a fast-moving wildfire threatens the community of Palermo just outside of Oroville. Watching Wall Street this morning, the Dow futures down 59 points. NASDAQ futures up 65. More on these stories, townhall.com.
Anyone with everyday aches and pains, I've got a question. What are you missing out on? Probably a lot. So let me tell you about Relief Factor. Relief Factor is a drug-free daily supplement that helps your body fight pain naturally. It doesn't just mask pain, it helps reduce or even eliminate it. In about 3 weeks, you'll discover what it's like to feel better. Go to relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF and save on your first order. That's 1-800-4RELIEF.
Hi, Rhett Rasmussen of BestHotGrill.com. Step up your grilling game with our Solaire portable infrared grills. Our compact everywhere is a favorite of RVers and trailer pullers. Solaire infrared provides the quick sear for bar marks and texture needed to properly finish sous vide. Use a portable alongside your larger conventional grill to create an instant sear zone and more juicy and flavorful food. Learn more at BestHotGrill.com. Affordable, powerful, portable infrared grills at BestHotGrill.com.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
A heat advisory from noon to 8 p.m. today. This is going to be the hottest day of the year so far. 100 in St. Louis. Heat index between 104 and 107. Be careful out there. Also have to be on guard for an isolated strong storm this afternoon, but much higher chances overnight tonight with scattered thunderstorms, some of which could be packing some winds down to 76 overnight tonight. Not nearly as hot tomorrow. The rain shuts down in the morning, and then it's 88 in the afternoon. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Senior Memorial. With the average funeral bill being over $9,000, are your loved ones prepared? Call 314-866-8886 or memorialplans.com. Senior Memorial Heritage Protection.
How'd you like to eliminate your expensive cable bill forever or get new satellite internet where cable can't go? Well, now you can have affordable satellite internet service for a few dollars a day. All you need is a mini satellite installed, and you can have unlimited internet connections wirelessly in your home or office. And no cable boxes means unlimited connections and no clutter. You can surf the internet or stream any of your favorite television services with no cable. And the best part is, satellite internet service costs only a few dollars a day for your entire home. Yes, fast internet to surf or stream television for a few bucks a day. Call now for free details and learn how to drop your expensive cable bill.
800-696-2871. 800-696-2871. 800-696-2871. That's 800-696-2871.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the Morning brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com. Mike Ferguson.
You play ball like a girl!
Gabe Pfeiffer.
I triple saw stereo!
Get up! Get up! Can't you hear the alarm?
Get up, St. Louis.
So it's time to get out of bed. Pour yourself the greatest cup of Kofifi the world has ever seen. Rise up with one voice, drain the swamp, and take back our country. Today's the day we're going to do it, and it's time to do it right now, believe me.
Mike Ferguson in the Morning on News Talk STL.
Get up! Get up! This is your cousin.
All right. I'm getting some questions on Twitter.
Okay.
At AVP Radio Show. No, we don't have the Rumbles feed up right now.
So sorry.
We are on Facebook, though. We are on video streaming on X or Twitter. And Mike Ferguson in the Morning is streaming on YouTube as well.
And the station's on YouTube.
Right. The station's on are we back as the station on YouTube?
I think so.
Okay. I think we're streaming under the show's one, which is funny because we have to be on YouTube just because it's there.
Mm-hmm.
But people go to Rumble. I mean, almost nobody watches on YouTube. Still have to be there for archive purposes or nothing else. But the problem is on Rumble's end. I don't know what the glitch is, but we're working on it.
Yeah.
Trying to get back up on Rumble. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
But you can still watch us on the others. So Gabe and Stella are watching the comments and all that sort of thing on the others. All right, let's talk about this Julian Assange thing. Okay. Here's what I'm supposed to do. I'm the media guy. I'm the former news guy. I'm the guy who's supposed to sit there and tell you exactly what it all means. Can I talk about a bigger aspect of this in that I have a sinking feeling that there's a lot of people who feel kind of bullied into pretending that they understand the complexities of this when we don't have all the information.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people have very, very strong opinions on it. But look, like I said, the first time this story, came up today, I was like, look, I don't know. I admit it. To everybody listening, I don't know that much about this story.
Right.
I don't know the extent of the information. I know it's a lot.
Oh yeah.
I don't know exactly what areas it covered. I know all of those things were classified.
Oh yeah. Or they were sensitive. Most of them were full on classified that Bradley Manning sent to him now.
Right.
Of course, now Bradley Manning, knowing what kind of mental state we're dealing with, he now is Chelsea Manning.
Yeah.
There was a lot of government communication that was in there,
Oh,
especially
like
surrounding the Iraq War,
like emails and correspondence between.
Yeah, as in government to government and within government. Yeah,
Okay,
which
there you
were
go.
classified documents surrounding military operations that Manning released to who smuggled them basically to Assange to publish on WikiLeaks.
Right.
Yeah. So 314-912-1019. By the way, still ahead here. The Biden administration wants the mutilating abuse of vulnerable children to continue. Now they're going to put them in different words. They're going to say that they're supporting the right to gender affirming care.
Yeah.
U.S. Supreme Court agrees to hear the case. We're going to talk about that at 7:20. Okay, so the Julian Assange thing. So here's what's going on. Basically, he has cut a deal with the Department of Justice. He's been on the run or in jail. He's been in jail for the last 5 years in London. Before that, he was hiding out. The Ecuadorians were hiding him in their embassy, and he couldn't leave there because if he went out, he could have been arrested and extradited to the United States.
Right.
And he was there for a few years.
He was there
also
for like 7 years or something like that. So, and then he was on the run in other ways, as well.
Yeah.
Bradley Manning, aka Chelsea Manning, had his sentence commuted by Barack Obama after serving like 7 years, but he was sentenced to 30-some years.
7 years. Come on.
And so Barack Obama, basically commuted him as a kind of a nod to the extreme left.
He did that's enough. Basically what he said.
Yeah. So listen, if you quietly, privately would say, I'm not really sure who's the good guy and the bad guy on this, that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot of people that, like I said, are pressured into having a really strong opinion. Is Julian Assange a hero? Is he a whistleblower? Is he, a foreign national who attacked the U.S.? Okay, listen, there are cases to be made for all of those. All right. To me, Bradley Manning / Chelsea Manning, just, weirdo dude. He's not a hero.
Right.
He's not. Now, even if you say, but there was,
we found out some important
we did
things,
find out some bad stuff as far as what some military operations were doing in Afghanistan and Iraq. He was a low-level intelligence officer. He was hired and trained to be trusted with classified information, and he sent thousands and thousands and thousands of them to a foreign national.
Yeah, that's the part that I am aware of.
Right.
And this is, kind of also something I mentioned, the line between whistleblower and simply spy. And you'd have a tough time making a case to me that Chelsea Manning, whatever you want to call is a whistleblower,
right?
Because it's one thing if, let's say I can't remember exactly the details of the situation, but there was some sort of torture thing.
Sure.
Right. That whole
Absolutely.
idea, Abu Ghraib, I think was the name of the prison. And there were some, humiliation play and all these other kind of weird things that were going on at that prison. And they were photographed and they were documented. And and that became a huge scandal.
Right.
And I think I'm vaguely aware of part of that, the exposure there having come from that information dump.
Yep.
Now, if he was aware specifically of that stuff going on and he got that information and then leaked it to the press, that would be a different story. You could easily argue that he was simply acting out of conscience to say, this is not right. Military shouldn't be doing this thing. And my oath to, to defend the Constitution and all the things that kind of go with it and defend America includes the ability to expose this type of thing and get it away. In that case, you can absolutely make the case that he's a whistleblower. But it's what it looks like, and I'm pretty sure it is just a matter of, here is all of the information I have access to that I put on a CD drive.
Right.
And or thumb drive, whatever it was at the time. I mean, back in the 90s, I'm not sure they had thumb drives readily available.
But he smuggled it to Julian Assange for WikiLeaks.
Yeah. And just a ton of information.
And there were some things that needed to be exposed, but there was an awful lot of stuff that were just simply classified, sensitive military and international communications, files and information on there. So
I can't imagine that it didn't include things like troop positions and movements and
I would hope not.
Logistical information. No, I'm just saying it's like all the classified information, these things that were going back and forth, all those communications. I imagine that was probably included in there.
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about tens or hundreds of thousands of files that were dumped into WikiLeaks, and it also, keep in mind, sending it to a foreign national is another layer. It wasn't like he said, "Oh my gosh, there's the human rights abuses or there are illegal activities happening here." This,
hey CNN,
hey USA Today, because I mean, he's obviously not going to go to Fox or Newsmax, but that's one thing, and then I think we would still have the debate, but we would have a different debate than sending it to a foreign national. Now,
individual.
Another argument is that Julian Assange, was being a journalist and therefore he shouldn't be prosecuted. Okay, being a journalist does not exempt you from the law.
Yeah.
All right.
There are some protections. Yeah. There are certain kind of leeway that's given. You can protect your private sources. You can kind of fake your identity to get into certain places and expose certain things. And they kind of turn the other way when it comes to those things for journalists. But just straight up soliciting classified information from an inside source like that, I don't think that counts.
It's very close to the line. Let's put it that way. So a lot of people are saying, a lot of particularly, libertarian types who are saying that the ends justify the means. There were things exposed, therefore good. Okay. And I'm arguing that you can have some good results, but also say that there was some bad stuff going on here as well.
Absolutely.
And Bradley Manning / Chelsea, I think he did legally change his name.
Yeah.
That he absolutely, failed in his duty, committed crimes. I don't think there's any question he committed crimes, and that he should have been in prison.
Absolutely.
I mean, he's, that's just
should still be in prison.
Yeah, I think so. I really do. I think so too. And instead, he actually ran for the Maryland state legislature.
I thought I saw something like that.
Where he ran as obviously he's a Democrat. And
I think we paid for his quote unquote transition.
Well, who knows?
I'm pretty sure. I vaguely remember a story out there being, hey, the military is paying for it because he's in prison at the time.
Right.
So under prison health cares and all these other things. I remember various things like that.
Yeah, it's the guy's just he's clearly mentally ill. I mean, he's clearly crazy. He's clearly in a terrible spot. And probably the last person you want to trust with national classified information, dealing with the military. So it's okay to say, yeah, but we exposed, some deep state stuff. Okay, great. I mean, I'm saying it's okay for it to be nuanced and saying that it's messy.
Right.
It's very, very messy. And a lot of people feel a lot of pressure to know exactly who, what, where, when, and why, when the reality is that there's a lot of that after all these years still obfuscated.
Yes.
And still murky. And don't feel bad if you're saying, I'm not sure who the good guy and the bad guy is here. Or maybe there's a little bit of both with Assange.
Yes.
And I think that's probably closer to the truth, is that there's a little bit of both. some good guy, some bad guy. Listen, you've got a right, as journalists to try to get the story. If you can talk somebody else into leaking something, okay, well, you can get it.
I guess so.
You're not supposed to, there are lines that you can't cross.
Right.
You mentioned, for instance, when a journalist is ordered by a judge to hand over your source.
Right.
Absolutely not. That is a First Amendment violation, and every journalist should absolutely refuse to do it unless the source says, go ahead, I'll talk to him.
Right.
But under no circumstances should they be forced to give up a source.
Absolutely.
Because if you say, okay, well, wait a minute, what if their source is a terrorist who's about to, and they know there's about to be an attack or something, then that journalist should absolutely warn people. But for a court to say, we'll decide which sources you're going to keep confident and which ones you're not, absolutely not. Even the left-wing reporters are correct in refusing. And they end up usually being held in contempt of court and fined and, thrown behind bars for a little bit. I've known a few journalists I've worked with who've been, threatened with that over the years. So it's really messy. It's really, really murky. Being a journalist does not exempt you from the law, but being a journalist, if you're actually working in journalism, whether it's biased or not, there are some First Amendment protections on this, but then you got the other layer that WikiLeaks is not a US based company.
Right.
Does the First Amendment apply?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I hadn't even thought of that aspect of it, but it's clearly there.
Generally speaking, it does because it's published in the United States.
Yeah.
But
there's a line.
But there is a line, and it's very, very murky here on this.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, I want more information, not less. If the government's doing something bad or illegal or torturous, I want it exposed. And if somebody breaks some rules to expose it, okay, but understand there are consequences. What we had with Manning in this case is just a wholesale dump of classified military intelligence and communications between countries.
Yeah, it's like I have access to this hard drive by my password, so I'm gonna pull every bit of information that's ever existed on this hard drive and just give it over to Julian. That's what it sounds like. What happened?
Yeah. So was Bradley Manning a traitor? I'll let you decide that. But that if we're gonna have a full debate over that,
we need to know all the details.
Then include that possibility as well. All right, 314-912-1019. The U.S. Supreme Court.
SCOTUS.
Speaking of gender-confused individuals, they are going to take up the case between the federal government and the states over whether or not children should be mutilated. Guess which side the Biden administration's on.
This is going to be a wild situation.
Let's talk about that at 721 here. 1019-94.1 News Talk STL.
Destination, making cold mind to fight your war. Stop it right now.
Like us on Facebook at News Talk STL.
I see your indifference. Stop it right now.
Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Oh, hey. Get up, get up. Can't you hear the alarm? Get up. This is your cousin.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Hi, it's Ken. We'll be seeing Zach Smith at the Saving America event at the Funny Bone in St. Charles Tuesday night. But Vic will also be talking to Zach Tuesday at 9:41.
Weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL.
Great news for my sponsor, Napoli Sea. And it's no surprise to me, nor hundreds who have dined there. The first time I entered, it was clear Napoli Sea is unique. The decor, the fish, imaginative cocktails, and of course, Napoli Sea is right next door to Napoli 3 in St. Charles. Napoli 2 is in Town and Country. The original Cafe Napoli is in Clayton, and I'm honored to endorse each of them. Visit any of the Cafe Napolis.
Old man winter in the rearview mirror. Warmer weather here. Time to call Hanson's Tree Service. 636-379-1830. 24/7 at hansonstree.com. This is the perfect time to spruce up and beautify your landscape beds. When you purchase organic mulch in bulk from Hanson's, you save on price, time, and incredibly convenient. Tons of commercial and residential tree care services as well. Grinding and land clearing, plant health care, and more. 636-379-1830. hansonstree.com. hansonstree.com.
Tony Colombo here for Cadre Asset Management. A cadre is defined as a small group of people specially trained for a particular purpose or profession, and that is the role that Cadre Asset Management can play in your financial journey. Learn more about how they can help secure your financial future by following Cadre Asset Management on Facebook, or just go to cadreassetmgm.com. CADREMT.com.
Cadre Asset Management is a Missouri-based independent advisory firm licensed under and securities and investment advisory services offered through Founders Financial Securities LLC, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC.
News Talk STL. Always streaming on your smart speaker, our mobile app, or newstalkstl.com. Love the music you hear on the morning show? Check out Mike's morning music playlist at newstalkstl.com.
In my shoes, my toes are busted. My kitchen says my bread is folded.
All right, the U.S. Supreme Court is going to decide at least some of the so-called transgender legal issues in the U.S. They've decided to take up the case. It's gotten up the line far enough. They're going to do that. I'll tell you what's going on here in just a second. 7:21 right now. By the way, speaking of the Supreme Court, kind of a mixed record on gun issues so far this year. What could that mean for Illinois, where the Second Amendment is suspended at the moment? We're going to talk to Cam Edwards from bearingarms.com about that right around 7:35. Okay. Let's see here. Did I print this one? I think I did here. The U.S. Supreme Court has agreed to take up an appeal by the Biden administration. I'm going to read you some of the way the media is framing this, but reality is what's happening is half of the states in this country have imposed some kind of restriction at some level on the chemical, the hormonal, the surgical abuse of children in the name of gender affirming, whatever. Some of them are better than others. Missouri's is mediocre in my opinion because it's not criminalizing it, but it's specifically allowed the liability, which scared away some of those operations. I mean, for instance, at the St. Louis Pediatric Transgender Clinic here in St. Louis with Wash U and the butchers in white coats that they have over there, they say that they have all but stopped consulting, because they're not supposed to prescribe the hormones. They're not supposed to prescribe the puberty blockers anymore. They say they weren't doing surgeries. We're assuming they're telling us the truth, which is, let's just hope that they are telling the truth.
Yeah.
Frankly, if somebody is in such a decrepit mindset that they say this 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 11-year-old, 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old is confused, therefore let's start injecting them with chemicals to alter their body. I don't trust that they have the moral compass to tell the truth about anything.
True.
Yeah. For instance, I look at the headline here, and I think it's an AP headline, but Channel 5, because I'm just picking on them like crazy because they're so bad. The headline is Supreme Court will take up state bans on gender affirming care for minors. Here's the byline. The justice's action comes as Republican-led states have restricted health care for transgender people, school sports participation,
oh boy,
bathroom usage, and drag shows.
Okay.
And they missed the Oxford comma. But anyway, okay, so let's pick apart the narrative that we're being fed by the media. The justice's action comes as Republican-led states, that's true, have restricted health care for transgender people.
No, they can get health care.
Yes.
I mean, if you got gallstones, if you've got a heart condition, if you're suffering from kidney damage of from various things, all of those things are attainable in the healthcare systems in red states. I don't know what they're talking about. What do you know what they're talking about?
Yes, Mike? Yes. That sentence only makes sense if you assume that mutilating the body of a minor is healthcare.
Right.
And that's
also they missed the minor aspect of it.
Right.
So they skipped that part.
Right. Because if you're an adult, I don't know of any states.
Love the music you hear
I don't know of any states that are stopping adults from doing what they want to do with them. You want to mutilate yourself when you're an adult? I wish you wouldn't, but I'll fight for your right to make that decision for yourself.
And if you can convince a doctor to do so, have at it.
That's up to you. But the idea that it's restricting health care for transgender people, first of all, it assumes that transgender is a real thing.
That's one.
And that's one of the lies that the media is feeding you and the left is feeding you. Secondly, saying it's restricting health care because it's putting limits to say you can't do this to children.
Right.
And But to say that's restricting health care is just dishonest. And then it says restricting school sports participation. It's not.
No, you can if you're a dude, even if you think you're a girl, you can participate in sports. You just have to pick the right team.
That's exactly it. You still get to participate. This says restricting bathroom usage. No child's bathroom usage is being restricted. You're still not allowed to go into the opposite sex's bathroom in some areas. In a lot of areas, including in St. Louis, they allow that.
They make it sound like they make them go outside.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, no.
That's just not doing it. So media, to nobody's surprise, is being 100% dishonest about this. But that's how they have to frame it, to try to create sympathy for what you in your core innately know is just evil. We are talking about chemical alterations, chemical castrations, and even surgical castrations of healthy tissue on children, in case that needs to be restated.
Yeah.
All right. 314-912-1019. Let's start with who we got here. Brad. Hey, Brad, you're on News Talk STL. What's your take on this?
Morning, gentlemen. Morning. I just had one, thought it was, conservatives very say that we want freedom, we want less government, whatnot. If it's not your kids, why do you care?
Okay, so because you're not allowed to, I'm answering your question. Because you're not allowed to abuse children. I mean, if we've got laws that say, you know what, my kid really could use a good beat down, I'm going to punch him in the mouth, you get arrested for that. We're talking about permanently altering the bodies and mutilating the bodies. Yes, we have an interest to saying you cannot do that to children. They're not allowed to make contractual decisions, are not allowed to make other decisions about chemicals they may or may take. Well, as soon as I'm done with my answer, and then we're not allowed to. We say you are not capable of these, and the parents can't sign you up for a credit card when you're underage. We're not going to let somebody sign off on having your genitals cut off when you're 12 or 13 years old. What's the follow-up?
Follow-up was circumcision's okay though. You're literally mutilating a baby's genitalia. That's okay though.
Totally same thing. You got me.
Yeah, you got me on that
totally
one.
got me on that.
Yeah, because it's totally non-functional. Because it's totally non-functional after the procedure, right? It's like it's non-functional. That's
and you said a child. Can't
no, I'm asking. I'm asking a question. Is it non-functional after a circumcision?
I don't know. I've never been circumcised.
It is.
Oh, I can tell you.
Yeah. I'm cracking wise here, but and then the follow-up one, you were saying how kids can't do this.
Right.
Kids can't get a credit. You can't sign your kids up for a credit card or something like that. How come in Missouri the Republicans stalled out on outlawing child marriage? Because it's okay to marry off girls under the age of 18, and I say girls, not young women. These are girls, and their parents can marry them off.
Yeah, the answer to that is you're right about that one. That's gross that they were slow walking. I was very.
It was a softball, easy one they could have got done and put a feather in their cap, and then they got all rancor and blah blah blah. I just pulled up to work and I could drive my truck, so I will see you another time.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. And on that last one, I agree with him.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was absolutely.
Well, the thing is, our legislature hasn't doing a lot of things that we don't like. So, and we've been talking about it forever. So, he's right there.
Right. No, on that third one. Yeah. I mean, so if that was supposed to be a gotcha, I'm not defending the Republicans on that. They were just wrong on that.
But the thing is, ultimately, it's
but
not
to be fair, it was a handful of just a couple of people who are just very, very wrong on that and just very gross on that.
Yes. Now to be fair, the ultimate point of that particular argument was about quote unquote hypocrisy on the part of Republicans, but it doesn't speak to the ideology of we don't want states should not have to allow children to be mutilated.
Right, and that's the thing is the debate's going to come down to is does a legislature have a right to create regulations on medicine? The states regulate every aspect of medicine more than it should in many ways.
Yeah.
But the states regulate a lot of things, everything from prescription drugs to procedures to whatever the case is, to do that. But clearly Brad disagrees with us on the whole transgender thing. But I don't understand how anybody can say, even if you think there is such a real thing as transgender, there is not.
There's not.
But let's just say that you buy into that.
Mhm.
The idea that you can do that to children, even though we have basically empirical evidence going back over 40 years of research. If you go back to the Johns Hopkins study of gender dysphoria and gender confusion.
And the reason why they stopped doing these surgeries, by the way.
Why other countries that are far more leftist than we are right now, they've actually pulled back in Europe and Scandinavia going, whoa, this is, we're out. We're not doing this, because 90% of the time the children grow out of it.
Yeah.
Now, they may end up being gay or bisexual or whatever the case is, but they go, oh yeah, thank God it didn't cut my junk off.
Yeah,
seriously. Thank God it didn't cut the girls off, and then if you get to be an adult and that's what you want to do is mutilate yourself,
have at it.
That's, I will buy you a cup of coffee and try to talk you out of it, but I would never try to get the government to stand in the way of you doing that. But to say that we need to be pushing this on children or allowing parents to do this to their children, if you want to argue that, you know what, it's the parents, it's up to the parents to decide how this child is going to be reared. You know what, maybe that kid needed a good punch in the mouth.
Yeah.
Maybe that kid needed a good swift kick to the rib cage.
Yeah, that Pandora's box.
Why
goes
are you interfering with
flying
the
open.
parents or signing off on it?
Yeah, seriously.
Maybe
parents'
that,
rights.
Maybe that kid, maybe that little girl wanted to do OnlyFans at 14. There's a big market for it.
Right.
The parents said it's okay.
They're just saving for college.
Right.
Of course, we're being facetious because that proves the argument here. We're talking about children, guys. We're talking about children.
Now, and I will end up again pointing out that when it comes to the child marriage, it was Republicans that stopped.
Yeah.
That got in the way. That was gross.
That was stupid.
Even though some of those guys who were fighting to keep the law in place, or lack of a law in place, they may vote with us 70, 80, 90% of the time. Otherwise, it was gross and it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
That we have laws that allow children to be married off.
And we will not defend it.
I'm not defending that at all.
We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL. Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning. From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
A heat advisory from noon to 8 p.m. today. This is going to be the hottest day of the year so far. 100 in St. Louis. Heat index between 104 and 107. Be careful out there. Also have to be on guard for an isolated strong storm this afternoon, but much higher chances overnight tonight with scattered thunderstorms, some of which could be packing some winds down to 76 overnight tonight. Not nearly as hot tomorrow. The rain shuts down in the morning, and then it's 88 in the afternoon. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. Doug and Safe Money Radio is on 3 times every weekend, but in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com or call 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233. Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP, member FINRA and SIPC.
This is Larry Connor's commentary on News Talk STL.
Last September, DHS Secretary Mayorkas established a Homeland Intelligence Experts Group. What was it? Who was on it? What did it do? Documents uncovered by America First Legal found this group was supposed to provide expert analysis on terrorism. The board included former CIA Director Brennan, former Department of National Intel Clapper, and both of them were among the 50 former Intel operatives that signed the letter that the Hunter Biden laptop was just Russian information. Well, these same experts claimed that terrorists were likely supporters of President Trump. They also declared our nation might be worried about anyone who served in the military or might be religious. That's right. They stated specifically, dive into indicators of extremist and terrorism. You might find they had military or religious experiences. Well, the board has now been disbanded. It's done. But you have to keep in mind the suspicion being raised about former military or anyone religious or any Trump supporter would be among our nation's terrorists. That is not easily forgotten. And the other point, nor should it be easily forgotten.
Get more Larry Connors on Larry Connors USA.
Tonight at 6 on News Talk STL.
No matter how big the event, Capriotti's can take care of all of your business or personal catering needs. With party trays, box lunches, a meatball bar, shareable salads, plus desserts and sides. Easy ordering is available via the Capriotti's app. Check it all out at capriottis.com.
Never paint again. This is Darren, owner of Rhino Shield. Want to eliminate painting your home, business, or church? Call the experts at Rhino Shield. Rhino Shield is a revolutionary ceramic wall coating to regular paint and vinyl. Perfect for aluminum, steel, unpainted brick, block, stucco, EIFS, drive-it, cement board, and wood sidings. Rhino Shield eliminates wasting time and money painting year after year. Our ceramic coating deflects 90% of the sun's UV rays and 100% of the moisture. Our clients want affordable protection with the elimination of maintenance. Rhino Shield protects your biggest investment while maintaining your architectural features and gives you the curb appeal you deserve. Make your home great again by working with the Rhino Shield experts. A+ rated with the BBB. Call 877-25-RHINO, 877-25-RHINO, or 877-25rhino.com. See what we did there? Genius. Tell them, ladies.
Go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
The Vic Porcelli Show.
Ken's sporting a really cool Trump 24 hat that our friend Grant sent us.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Grant. I'm actually wearing mine.
What's that supposed to mean?
Because you're not.
Because we took them both home.
I did not.
He said, you can't have, I'm having both. And then he wore it. That's why.
I did not. Vic didn't want to mess up his hair.
Hey, at least I got hair. You want to go?
Oh, okay. So
you want to go?
Discriminating against follically challenged individuals.
I'm harassed.
You're harassed.
Vic Porcelli, weekday mornings at 9 on News Talk STL. Talk radio made in St. Louis for St. Louis. This is News Talk STL.
Our responsibility.
News, analysis, and opinion.
To provide updated guidance.
At 1019, 941, and newstalkstl.com.
Hi, this is Mark McCloskey. Check out my show, Mark McCloskey on Fire, Sunday afternoon at 5 here on News Talk STL. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
All right, just heads up. We're back on Rumble. Yay. Stream is up and running.
Get back into the chat, guys.
Yep.
I imagine after that last call we had, that you might want to say something.
Man, I wish we were up and running when
when it was going.
Let me say it real quick.
Yeah.
I love it when leftists call.
Yes. It was a good call.
That was a good call.
Yes.
I am glad that he calls and then that leftists understand they get to have their say here.
Absolutely.
I get to debate you.
Yes.
Stell gets to debate you. Gabe gets to debate you, but I'm really glad he did. All right.
Here comes the circumcision crowd right now.
The circumcision crowd.
It's funny because there is a certain logic to what he was saying.
Yeah. Sure.
I mean, there really is.
Yeah. It's similar to the idea of, what do you call it? Piercing a baby's ears.
Right.
We're like, maybe you didn't have any choice in that.
But to compare that to laws that are saying you cannot pump children full of puberty blocking and other hormones.
Right.
It's not the same thing. All right. So that's what happens though, is that people want to often
equate.
Well, they want to distract from the issue at hand.
Right.
I think is what it is.
All right. And circumcision does not delete the genitalia. You still have it for the rest of your life.
Yep.
But if somebody wants to debate saying you shouldn't be doing that at that age, I mean, I disagree, but I think there's at least a logic to the argument.
Suppose, yeah.
But all right,
but certainly not equivalent.
Right all right. Let's. I definitely want to keep talking about that. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Will the Second Amendment ever apply again in the land of Lincoln? All right. The Supreme Court, I would say, kind of so far mixed bag of rulings, but overall, over the past couple of years, very solid pro Second Amendment rulings.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't wild about the ruling that came out recently regarding, protective orders and things like that. But overall, Supreme Court's been solid on the Second Amendment here. Interesting article at bearingarms.com written by Cam Edwards. Supreme Court silent on Illinois gun ban lawsuits. And Cam joins us right now. And Cam, so first of all, just to make sure that we know where we're at, it's not saying that they're ruling against it or they're not going to hear it. We're just not in the position yet where the Illinois cases have risen to the top. But in the meantime, the Second Amendment is essentially suspended in Illinois. So when you look at the rulings that have happened that you're writing about here, Garland, Cargill, and Rahimi, and all of these, Do any of these have an effect on what's happening in Illinois right now? Or are we just going to have to wait for this to work its way through the process?
Yeah, thanks for the invite, first of all. And I think that they do have an impact, and I think that they do have a relationship. So right now, the half dozen federal challenges to the Protect Illinois Communities Act, they are heading to trial this September, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's also an appeal up to the Supreme Court to sort of intervene now. And the Supreme Court has not acted on that request. They have actually kept those cert petitions in conference for about a month now, which is a sign that they're probably going to do something, right? They may turn these cases away, but maybe we get a written dissent from a justice. They may grant cert to these cases and say, you know what, we are going to step in and we are going to hear this case now. That'd be a little unusual, but these cases certainly have drawn the interest of the court. And one of the decisions that you mentioned last week, the cargo case, the bump stock case, I think does implicate the Illinois law, because if you look at what the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals has said in denying an injunction, they said, well, we don't think that these guns are covered by the Second Amendment. These AR-15s, they're like machine guns. And in the Heller decision, the Supreme Court said that guns that were like machine guns, M16s and the like, they're not covered by the Second Amendment. So in Cargill, which was the bump stock ban case, the Supreme Court said, look, if you put a bump stock on the back of a semi-automatic rifle, that doesn't make it a machine gun. Well, if putting a bump stock on a semi-automatic rifle doesn't make it a machine gun, then clearly a semi-automatic firearm is not a machine gun. And the Seventh Circuit is wrong, as they have erred in their logic here. So I do think that the Cargill decision was the right one, but I also think that it will have an impact obliquely on the Illinois case, because the Supreme Court has basically rejected the Seventh Circuit's argument about why this ban is constitutional.
Good morning, Cam. Gabe Pfeiffer here. So I wanted to get your opinion on the other case that came through about restricting firearm ownership, or at least possession, by those under protective order. So, I can probably guess how you're going to come down on this, but I wanted to give you the chance to sound off on it.
Sure. Listen, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with the with the conclusion of the court. My problem is how they got there, right? I think most of us would agree that if you got somebody like Zaki Rahimi, a guy who was arrested and charged with a number of violent offenses, maybe he's not the type of person you want running around with a gun. And he's certainly not the poster child for the right to keep and bear arms. The problem, though, is that how the court said that Zaki Rahimi could be disarmed is that they looked to a couple of 18th century laws that, according to Clarence Thomas, who was the dissenting judge in this case, were materially different than the modern law in question, right? So my main concern is that the court has opened the door for judges around the country to say, okay, well, even though they didn't have gun bans back in 1791, they did have this statute that, regulated trap guns, right? You couldn't put a gun up on your property and, have a little tripwire. So we're going to say that that's close enough to banning AR-15s that counts, right? I think it opens the door for a lot of really bad decisions going forward. I know that the conservative wing of the court, I think, is aware of that. Justice Neil Gorsuch, in one of his concurrences, said that, listen, we didn't decide anything other than whether or not somebody who's been found to be a danger to others by a judge can be temporarily prohibited from possessing firearms. That's all we decided in this case.
Well,
now the question is, all right, well, what's the next case they're going to decide and when? Because we've got to get some of these answers.
Yeah, and on that one, because we had a big debate about that yesterday, I'm very, very concerned about that ruling, and so you and I may disagree a little bit on it, because in the case of what was announced this week in the protective orders, in theory, didn't the court say that if you're just accused, even if there are no criminal charges and certainly no conviction, they can suspend a constitutional right until we sort it out later? To me, that's the precedent I am most worried about, even though I know that probably the majority of protective orders are totally valid and should be there, and they're serving a great function. That's my worried about the precedent on those.
So here's the thing. The court's already upheld the validity of these orders, right? This was specifically about whether or not somebody can be deprived of their right to keep and bear arms. But the validity of these orders hasn't been in question. And I think that the court did make sure that there were some limitations, right? So the court said while this order is active, somebody can be denied the right to possess a firearm. Well, in states like California, after a protective order expires for 5 years, you're prohibited from possessing a firearm. So the Supreme Court seemed to suggest that California is getting it wrong, right? That there are some limitations. The court also talked about, again, a finding by a judge. I wish that they would have been a little bit stronger in terms of what due process protections are needed, because I do think that this opens the door for the constitutionality of red flag laws, right? These extreme risk protection orders, where, as you say, you don't have to be accused of a crime. You don't have to be arrested or charged with anything. Somebody petitions the court and says, hey, I think Cam is, getting ready to do something bad to himself or somebody else. If a judge says there's a 51% chance that person right, then, I can be deprived of my right to keep your arms for 6 months or a year, maybe longer if they try to renew that order. I'm not suggesting that this case doesn't do any damage to our Second Amendment rights. Right. I think that it definitely opens the door for that. But again, you look at this decision, I don't think you were going to get a majority on the court to endorse the position that Zaki Rahimi should have been able to possess a firearm after, this domestic violence restraining order was granted. And if we want to change that, then we don't just have to change the makeup of the court, but I think we also have to change the court of public opinion, because I think the Supreme Court was sort of signaling we want to side with where we think the bulk of Americans are on this issue.
Now, one thing, I'm not sure if you've had a chance to hear about this. I think it just happened today, maybe just an hour ago or so. The U.S. Surgeon General declared gun violence a public health crisis.
Oh, I didn't. That must be.
This is I think this is a brand new thing that just kind of came across here.
Bullets are unhealthy.
Bullets are unhealthy. yeah. I guess it causes lead poisoning. So Vivek. Murthy, Dr. Vivek Murthy, he's the nation's top doctor, as they say. He declared that this is a problem, and he says that, let me get this quote here. It is now time for us to take this issue out of the realm of politics and put it in the realm of public health, the way we did with smoking more than half century ago. What are your initial impressions? This is brand new.
I mean, what could possibly go wrong with government saying we're going to make something a public health issue? What could possibly go wrong with that?
Well, I mean, the absurdity of this is he says, we need to take this out of politics. And then he immediately turns around and calls on Congress to pass a bunch of gun control laws, right? I mean, this is absurd. First of all, I find it very telling that, Dr. Murthy is proclaiming that we need to now declare gun violence to be a public health emergency, when according to the Biden administration, violent crime is dropping.
Right? That's a good point. That's what they say.
It's falling to the fastest level in like 30 years. So why are they bringing this up now? Because it's an election year, because Joe Biden needs the support of the gun control lobby to win election. And this is, I think, going to be part of a sustained push between now and November on the part of the Biden administration to make guns and our Second Amendment rights and gun control a campaign issue. They would love to contrast themselves with Donald Trump, who said, I'm not going to do anything about the guns. Donald Trump is a convicted felon who can't possess a firearm anymore, like Hunter Biden. Right. I think that this is an issue that Biden feels comfortable engaging in. And so I think we're going to see a lot of gun control talk between now and November here from Biden. We're
visiting with Cam Edwards from bearingarms.com. The article is Supreme Court Silent on Illinois Gun Ban Lawsuits. Okay, last question before we go here, Cam, because I think you bring up something fascinating with the election. It wasn't that long ago. I mean, you and me and Stell and Gabe, we're all spry young people, so we haven't had that much life experience, but we're still old enough to remember when the Second Amendment was basically safer in an election year because nobody wanted to be accused of trying to take away your Second Amendment rights. And now the left is basically running on, no, elect us, will take away your Second Amendment rights and make you safer. When did that flip sort of happen, and how do we combat that? Not just from a political level, but we're going to have to re-win the hearts and minds of a lot of voters right now.
Yeah, I think the switch happened. I think you can give a two-word answer. Michael Bloomberg. He decided to get involved and make gun control an issue. He had been around with Mayors Against Illegal Guns, but when he launched Every Town for Gun Safety, and he committed to spending, $50 million a year on electing pro-gun control candidates. That was the first time that the gun control lobby really had the deep pockets that it needed. And over the past couple of years, it's outspent the NRA. It's outspent Second Amendment groups. So we want to talk about why politicians are feeling, particularly Democrat politicians, are feeling more comfortable talking about gun control on the stump. It's because they're getting paid for it, and they know that check's coming in. But I think that you're right. We do have to engage. The Supreme Court, if nothing else, the Supreme Court decision in Raheny reminded us that we can't expect the Supreme Court to save us, right? The Supreme Court is not going to always uphold the Second Amendment. There are going to be times where they even told us, look, they said the Second Amendment right isn't unlimited. So we can't afford to ignore Congress. We can't afford to ignore the state houses. We can't afford to ignore our city council meetings, right? We have to continue to be engaged in the political process. And that means talking to your neighbors. It means talking to your friends. It means having those folks from the left call in, so you can have a conversation and a debate and point out their fallacies. But we just simply can't sit and say, okay, well, we're going to have the judges save us. We're going to have the court save us. As long as, people can read the Constitution, we're okay. We're not in that moment, right? We have to actively defend our right to keep and bear arms, and that means getting in the arena.
Yeah, and that means particularly Illinois is one of the ground zeros as well. All right, Cam Edwards, once again, bearingarms.com. Hey, Cam, good to talk to you, man. Thanks so much for being on.
Thanks, Cam.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the invite.
All right, 314-912-1019. Man, we got some interesting stuff happening in the Rumble chat box already here.
Here we go.
Buckley making the argument that we need less libertarianism in conservatism.
Interesting.
I think we need to pick and choose the right libertarianism.
Yeah.
Because, Buckley and not Buckley, who's commenting, but William F. Buckley and Ronald Reagan have cited libertarian thought as being the heart and soul of conservatism, and obviously they're getting away from the good parts of libertarianism. But there's some crazy libertarianism out there as well. And I say that as somebody with a libertarian streak in me. All right, appreciate that, Buckley. Keep that debate going up there. I agree with some of what you're saying. I disagree with some of what you're saying as well. But that's what this is all about. All right, just ahead here, right around 7:54, we're going to have a few minutes. You're not going to believe this, guys. Sometimes people lie on the internet.
What?
I'm just wait.
Oh my
7:53. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
Get up. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Tony Colombo here, reminding you to visit my friends at Bluff City Outdoors in Alton before your next trip into the great outdoors. For decades, Bluff City Outdoors has covered all the needs for area fishermen, and they'll always have all the best bait, tackle, and gear for your next trip on the water. And now they cover all your bow hunting needs, including their state-of-the-art indoor archery range and techno hunt system, open every day for you to come shoot, or you can join a league. Follow Bluff City Outdoors on Facebook and learn more at bluffcityoutdoors.com.
The Herzog Tomorrow Foundation provides private school tuition scholarships through Missouri's new Most Scholars program to cover the cost of accessible, high-quality schooling.
Hi, this is Mayela Esser with the Herzog Tomorrow Foundation. Our private school tuition scholarships wouldn't be possible without the support of generous Missouri taxpayers. If you're a Missouri taxpayer interested in redirecting your tax dollars and sending them to Missouri students in need of a better education, please contact me at herzogmostscholars.org.
Better education for students creates a better tomorrow for all. Learn how you can help provide a better education for Missouri students at herzogmostscholars.org. That's herzogmostscholars.org. Also, sign up for The Lion, an initiative of the Herzog Foundation that carries articles covering a wide range of issues facing American families and culture. herzogfoundation.com. That's herzogfoundation.com.
This hour of Mike Ferguson in the morning brought to you by Window World. Simply the best for less. 314-993-1800 or visit windowworld.com.
Hi, it's Dan Bongino here, and I'm proud to be on News Talk STL every weekday from 11 to 2. Right now, you're listening to Mike Ferguson in the morning.
This is going to surprise you, but sometimes people lie on the internet.
I think I saw that in George Washington's last tweet. Said something like that.
Was that from Valley Forge?
Yeah. He said,
Tweeted
I
from
cannot
there.
tell a lie, but other people lie on this platform.
The cherry tree's fine.
Yes, right. Oh my goodness. Interesting discussion happening on the Rumble chat box. Now, by the way, we are back up on Rumble.
Yes.
I don't know what the glitch was on Rumble, but it's sorted out, whatever it is.
Join the conversation.
We've got Buckley, who's saying, we need less of in conservative movement, libertarianism. Of course, I'm arguing. I think there's some parts of the conservative movement that could use some more libertarianism.
Right. Sounds like
interesting.
fighting words, man.
All
No,
right.
I'm kidding. No, sounds like a good discussion, though.
Yeah. I'm going to try to kind of pick out some of the stuff he's arguing, and let's talk about that. 8:05.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And then 8:35, the guys from Heritage, Joel and Zach, going to be here, giving us a preview of tonight's Saving America event. Hope you're there. You got your tickets? Let's be there. I'm
going to be there.
Okay. Forbes had an interesting article. They surveyed 1,000 online daters. Okay. I am so glad I never have to worry about the dating scene ever again.
It's horrific right now.
I've never been on a dating app. When you were single, did you ever do dating apps?
No.
I did not personally. Before you and Kathy got married, did you all do dating apps?
The internet didn't exist.
Oh,
back
sorry.
then,
Never mind.
Yeah, Mike, I was going to say, I got married 20 years ago, so the apps didn't exist either.
No.
So we didn't have smartphones back then.
But so you haven't been on dating apps since getting married.
Certainly not.
Which is better than some of these online daters can
Oh,
say.
my gosh.
We met in the library.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
Poll of 1,000 online daters, and this was the story published in Forbes, found that 1 in 5 lie about their age. 1 in 5, 19% of women and 23% of men lie about their age.
Wow. Why?
Really
though?
pathetic.
Why?
1 in 8 have lied about how tall they are, how much money they make, what their job is, what their dating history is. But get this, about 1 in 8 lie about their current relationship status.
Oh, geez. Guys,
in other words, they're cheating and they don't want to tell you.
If you want that relationship to go anywhere, all that stuff's going to come out.
Oh yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm actually not a surgeon, make $250,000 a year. I'm a parking lot attendant and make $4,000 a year. I'm not 6'2". I'm actually,
right.
5'3".
Right. So what are you
Just add a
going to
foot.
find? Yeah.
What's a foot between friends?
75% of people who were surveyed say they feel burned out by the whole dating experience, online dating in the app.
Yeah.
Say the top 3 reasons being they cannot find a good connection, disappointed by people, and being rejected too many times. I'm just going to throw this out there. And again, I'm not an expert. I haven't dated in, other than my wife and I go out on dates, but yeah, I have not dated to find a mate in a long, long time. But have actual in-person human conversations with people might be a way to avoid some of that
That's
burnout
helpful.
and frustration.
That's helpful.
Just saying that we are removing the human contact and human communication.
Oh yeah. And everybody's lying. Everybody's lying online. It's just, why are you doing this?
I mean, lying about your current relationship status. So there are people who are, maybe it's like, well, technically I'm married, fine, but you know what? Things aren't going well. So it's okay to date. No, it's not, Blake.
I want to go back to what's a foot between friends.
Report cards are a good way to show how well your kids are doing in class and where they might need improvement. We at the Show Me Institute believe schools should get grades too, so parents can see how their child's school compares to others. That's why we came up with the Missouri School Rankings Project. Click on the website moschoolrankings.org and it's all there. Rankings and letter grades for all the schools in Missouri. The rankings are based on categories such as student performance in English language arts and math, ACT scores, and graduation rates. Then we take the rankings and come up with a grade point average, just like your child has. Each school and district has a grade, and the website is easy to use. And now we've added spending data for every district, so parents, taxpayers, and policymakers can see where the money is going. Don't you want to know how your child's school stacks up? Learn more at showmeinstitute.org. The Show Me Minute has been brought to you by Show Me Institute and Show Me Opportunity.
KLGY HD3 Clayton, K270BW Bellefonte, KNBS Bowling Green. This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, and always streaming at newstalkstl.com.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. President Biden's student loan debt redistribution scheme, it's another judicial snag.
Federal judges in Kansas and Missouri have blocked parts of a Biden administration student loan repayment plan that provides a faster path to cancellation and lower monthly payments for millions of borrowers. The judges' rulings issued Monday say the U.S. Department of Education cannot help borrowers ease their loan repayment burdens going forward under a rule set to go into effect July 1st. The decisions do not cancel assistance already provided to borrowers. Keith Peters reporting.
A plea deal with the Department of Justice expected to result in freedom at long last for WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. He got into hot water for online publication of classified U.S. documents. Now out of a UK prison, expected to be going home to Australia. A Chinese lunar probe has returned home, bringing rock and soil samples back to Earth from the mysterious far side of the moon.
The probe landed in northern China in the Inner Mongolian region. In a televised news conference after the landing, the director of China's National Space Administration said, "I now declare that the Chang'e 6 lunar exploration mission achieved complete success." Chinese scientists anticipate the return samples will include 2.5 million-year-old volcanic rock and other material that scientists hope will answer questions about geographic differences on the moon's two sides. I'm Charles Dilatesma.
Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy describes gun violence as an urgent public health crisis, issuing an advisory this morning endorsing a range of gun control measures, demanding the, quote, collective commitment of the nation to stop gun violence. On Wall Street, the Dow futures down 84 points, NASDAQ futures up 72. More on these stories at townhall.com.
You just grin and bear it or bite the bullet when it comes to everyday pain? Don't. Try Relief Factor, a drug-free daily supplement that helps your body fight pain naturally. Relief Factor doesn't just mask pain, it helps reduce or even eliminate it. It's 100% drug-free. It's developed by doctors. In 3 weeks or less, you'll know whether it works for you like it works for me. Try Relief Factor for yourself. Go to relieffactor.com or call 1-800-4RELIEF and save on your first order. That's 1-800-4-RELIEF.
Madame Giselle senses something big coming. Is it a career change? Everything looks wet. I'm going to be a swim teacher. There's a roof. A swim teacher who also does roofing. No, the roof of your RV has a leak and it's ruining the furniture. Oh, that's okay. I'm covered by Progressive. But maybe I'm a swim teaching roofer who makes furniture.
Customize your coverage with Progressive's Roof Protection Plus and be prepared for the unexpected. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates. Roof Protection Plus available for RVs less than 6 years old. $250.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
A heat advisory from noon to 8 p.m. today. This is going to be the hottest day of the year so far. 100 in St. Louis. Heat index between 104 and 107. Be careful out there. Also have to be on guard for an isolated strong storm this afternoon, but much higher chances overnight tonight with scattered thunderstorms, some of which could be packing some winds down to 76 overnight tonight. Not nearly as hot tomorrow. The rain shuts down in the morning, and then it's 88 in the afternoon. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
This hour of News Talk STL brought to you by Chris Cooper and Serenity Wealth Management. Discover little-known strategies that could be the difference between choosing the care you deserve or having someone else decide it for you. Get a free copy of Chris's book at serenityltc.com.
Caring for a loved one is stressful. It's an emotional time, and we want our loved ones to get the quality of care they deserve. But the cost of long-term care is expensive. In the St. Louis area, it could be $60,000, $70,000, or even over $100,000. Can your savings handle this added expense? Fortunately, News Talk STL listeners have an expert right here. Financial strategist Chris Cooper of Serenity Wealth Management shows families tax-efficient strategies to fund care needs. Whether planning in advance, have health concerns, or living in a care community today, solutions exist to fund the quality of care you deserve.
Hi, I'm Chris Cooper, and I'd love to send you a free copy of my new book. You'll learn about strategies to empower you and your family, protect your savings, and make sure your loved ones get the quality of care they deserve.
Visit SerenityLTC.com. That's SerenityLTC.com.
Investment advice offered through Fortis Capital Advisors.
Mike Ferguson.
Are you pretending to be crazy?
Gabe Pfeiffer.
There's something serious I have to tell you about the future.
Get up, St. Louis.
Will you guys knock it off?
Mike Ferguson in the morning on News Talk STL.
Get up, this is your cousin God.
Okay, one of the things I love about the streaming audio and the video is we get some really interesting stuff going on off the air, but on our stream.
Yes.
So I'm bringing it on the air. Basically, Buckley 28 has got posting a lot, and it's some really interesting stuff here.
Yeah, absolutely.
But if you're not on the Rumble stream right now, you're not seeing it. So I'm going to just kind of call an audible.
Yeah.
And go with this because it came from the discussion we were having a little bit earlier. And we got a call in from, I think it was Brad. Right?
Brad, yeah.
Was it Brad? And so we got a call in from somebody who's clearly on the left, completely disagrees with Gabe and I on the whole the transgender nonsense stuff.
Yeah.
And but now Buckley agrees with, I think, us on that on the children's side.
Right.
Doesn't agree with Brett. I don't want to misrepresent there. He's on the correct side.
Right.
Buckley's on the correct side of the child transgender thing. But he mentioned, because you and I have said, listen, when you become an adult, do what you want.
Right.
That's the libertarian streak in me.
Right.
We part ways with Buckley on that. And I'll go through that here in just a second. But we are back up on Rumble because I know a lot of people watch us on Rumble, watch the stream on Rumble. For whatever reason, Rumble was down or not playing nice with our streaming program or whatever it was. So it just came back up about, I don't know. It came back up probably
about a half hour
ago, something like that. So the ability to comment and discuss and things like that,
it's back.
Which, by the way, for instance, what was it? Lunch Lady said regarding the whole dating and people lying.
Oh yeah.
She said people put up old pictures of themselves. Dating apps suck.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Why would you do that?
Well, like, hey, this is a really good picture of me. I don't have any really good current pictures of me. I'm not going to take any really good current
because
pictures.
I'm ugly.
Because I'm not as cute as I was back in the day. So I'm going to use this one.
I saw a video. I don't know if it was real or not. On like the Facebook reels and stuff. There was a dude who was like sitting outside of like a cafe, and this dude in a dress walks up, and he's like pushed him away. He's like, I'm not, what are you here for? There was a date apparently off of a dating app. And he's like, I'm waiting for her.
Yes.
He's like, that is me. Now, this could have absolutely been
a setup,
just a dramatized thing.
They do that for social media,
Sure.
right? They set those things up.
But it could have been somebody with a filter as well. I mean, I don't know if that was a real thing or not.
Mike, they can do absolute sorcery with makeup, by the way, nowadays.
Or the filters, just the filters.
Yeah, the filters on top too, yes.
And so that's where I came from. But let me go to this here last I mean, we got about 60
minutes
here.
Yeah.
So let's just because what Buckley is writing on here, Buckley 28 is writing on here, is very similar to debates I have heard within the right, that tension between conservatives and small L libertarians. Okay. So here's the thing though, is that conservatives don't know who and what they are, generally speaking, as it is right now. I think the conservative movement is at a crossroads.
Yes.
I think it's at an identity crisis. The libertarian movement is, it swings back and forth wildly as far as what it is. But generally speaking, there are some libertarian principles.
Yes.
There are some conservative principles that, unfortunately, I don't know are as safe as some of the others. For instance, you have been warning about the big government tendencies within the conservative movement, some of this national conservatism or NatCon stuff, some of this, I'll just say it. Some of the aspects of the MAGA populism is big government stuff. I'm not saying that everything about it is bad. Obviously, I don't think that, but I think that there is overall a big trend in the conservative movement to move towards bigger government.
Absolutely.
And I think we need to be talking about that and intellectually doing some debates and talk about that. Okay. So Buckley said, talking specifically about the trans debate, why is it not okay for a kid to participate. In other words, go through that process,
Mm-hmm.
but totally okay for an adult. Why can't we just admit that it's bad across the board? Okay, so here's where I'm going to agree.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's bad across the board.
Absolutely bad across
I
the board.
agree about that. The difference here from what I think Buckley is saying, Buckley 28 is saying, and what I'm saying is, where at some point does government have a role to tell you you can't?
Right.
Every society draws a line somewhere
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to when is your age of majority. In some European countries, it is 15 or 16.
Right.
I
When
think
you have the responsibility of
right.
your own decisions,
your
and
own
things like-
agency.
yes,
This
agency.
would be the term.
Right.
And in this country, we have generally drawn that line at 18 with a little bit of
wiggle.
fuzziness in there.
With the
depending on
21 and
situation.
all that, yeah.
21, in some cases 25, in some cases younger. We're talking about criminal stuff.
Or
So,
16 for driving.
16 for driving. And so we, generally speaking, we've said at this age, you don't have legal agency.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if your parents or anybody else agrees to it. We're not going to let you sign up for a credit card, I think is the example I used.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to let you sign a contract. We're not going to let you take out a loan for a car. We're not going to, we're not going to do all of these things.
And then also age of consent.
An age of consent.
I think that's actually the most relevant when we're talking about
Right.
the LGBTQ type stuff.
Precisely.
But yes, in generally speaking, we're talking about,
Yeah.
age of majority.
Yeah. So here's the thing is, like I said, I will, if somebody is confused and I think going through a demented process and they're like, I'm going to go get them chopped off,
Mhm.
I will buy you the cup of coffee and I will do my best to talk you out of it and try to save you from a horrible decision. But if you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, I don't think the government has a right to tell you cannot do that to yourself. I do think the government has every right to tell me I don't have to pay for it.
Right.
Or require your insurance to pay for it.
Mhm. Which is, again,
right.
Publicizing essentially or spreading out the cost of it to other people who may
Yeah.
not agree. Yeah.
Yeah. And go to the Rumble chat box to see what I'm not going to read just everything that's written there, but he goes on to say libertarians out of the conservative movement need to go. He said it's totally okay for the government to outlaw degeneracy. And he says not for kids, but for adults too.
Well, okay, and here's the rub, because I think and we've actually fallen into this trap before in past years where conservatives have passed laws to try to push culture in a certain direction. Now, of course, the problem really comes when the people in charge of administering these laws or making the new laws that, basically the other side gets the reins of power. And we've already opened up the Pandora's box and say, this is a tool that government has.
Right.
You can adjust culture to meet your particular view of what is good, what is degenerate, what is, all of those things. So when the other side gets the levers of power, they say, they can rightfully say, this is my interpretation of what good is, and therefore I'm going to express it through the law because you got to do it.
Right.
Now, the libertarian argument says, how about we not
Right.
use government to push a particular agenda that
Now,
way?
here's a follow-up from Buckley, which I think is what, if he were sitting right here, is
Mhm.
what I'm assuming Buckley, would say to you in debate. So conservatives have a very hard time supporting laws that push society in a certain direction because of this libertarian mindset of you do you. The left doesn't, and they win because of it. Leftists believe the you do you mindset, but they also believe, I think this is good for society, so I will support a law forcing it into society. We don't, and you wonder why the culture is gone. Okay, so I do think the left generally embraces a huge amount of debauchery and stuff that's horrible, and they're using government to push it on us.
Yes.
Here's where I disagree.
Mhm.
I disagree in that I don't think it's the government's job to say, well, government should be pushing by law and policy and regulation the virtuous stuff. I think government should stop pushing it altogether because I trust our culture and unmolested culture to sort those out quicker and better and more permanently than a government force, where we know the people who tend to be trying to run the government tend to be people who think government should run you.
Right. And ultimately it comes down to where you think government lies in its ability to affect culture. I think government does have a role in affecting culture. We've seen that. Once gay marriage was accepted by the Supreme Court, public acceptance of gay marriage went up. So we've seen where government can influence culture, but generally speaking, for the most part, culture, government that's downstream of culture, and what the conservative problem has been is that we have ceded all of the ground of the cultural institutions, and therefore, all we're seeing right now is an expression in law about things that people either don't care enough about to be active, or they are actively, supporting things that we don't like. Right. We missed the boat a long time ago in that. I mean, what was it? Not the 50s, where our movies were very they were patriotic, they were anti-communist, they pushed family values, like, okay, the desire of every person's heart was to every man's heart was to go on an adventure, find a good woman, settle down and have kids, right? The nuclear family was kind of the ideal. Our sitcoms looked that way. There was a patriarch of the family. Ward Cleaver was a patriarch of the family, right? So you would go to him when the kids had problems, they get all that. Now we have comedically stupid fathers, and we have the pushing of communist ideology in superhero movies. We have all kinds of craziness, and that's come because all the conservatives basically checked out of the cultural fight, and we said, oh, it's just a movie, it's just music, it's just the news. It's meaningless to society. Let's go and build a think tank so we can elect the right people.
Well, yeah, but let's not cede the culture war battlefront to political office,
and that's even worse.
There's a role there.
Yeah,
there's a role there. But to quote my an old friend of mine, he died years ago, named Michael Badnarik, who was definitely radical and fringe in some areas that I'm not. But he had a great tagline with his books and all that sort of thing. He said, lighting the fires of liberty one heart at a time.
Yeah.
Michael was a friend of mine. And I think that concept is one that, and Michael was a very libertarian, small and big L libertarian guy. And, he, I think, was onto something. So I don't want to match the left's big government push with the right's big government push.
Right.
But Buckley makes an interesting argument here, has been made by others as well. So Buckley, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I don't agree with everything you're saying. There's actually a couple things I agree with here. But I want to expand on that in future conversations here.
Yeah, I think the diagnosis is kind of right, that we've had a whole bunch of problems with our government doing this stuff. But I think the solution is, one, defang government's influence on culture, and then retake culture.
Yeah.
Well, simultaneously anyway.
Well, you got to work on both. All right. 314-912-1019. Let's dump some news on you. Tonight is the Saving America 2024 event with News Talk STL and the Heritage Foundation. We're going to give you a little bit of a preview of that. Joel and Zach are here. We're going to talk to them at 8:35 on 1019-94.1 News Talk STL.
Don't try to make me stop. No inspiration. You have a soul so dark it is no more.
This is News Talk STL at 1019, 94.1, 99.1 HD3 and newstalkstl.com.
I've had enough of this. Turn my eyes to your indifference. Stop right now.
Get up, St. Louis. It's Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Get up, in case you hear the alarm. Get up.
I'm Dr. TJ, owner of the Institute of Natural Health, co-owner of Optimal Nutraceuticals, and the host of Wellness 101. Wellness 101 is designed to cut through the nonsense and provide you common sense, science-based information regarding health and wellness. On the show, we discuss topics like thyroid health, gut health, hormone optimization, and many others. Our show airs Saturdays at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. and Sundays at 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. right here on News Talk STL. For more information, visit us at inhstl.com. That's inhstl.com.
Hey, Columbo here for the cleaning pros at Zero Res. Summertime in St. Louis means things like family gatherings, barbecues, and graduation parties, and Zero Res knows how important it is to have your home as clean and healthy as possible for your friends and family, so they're kicking off summer with an amazing offer. Book a cleaning in June and mention the Columbo special, and you'll get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned starting at just $129. Plus, you can take $50 off an air duct cleaning. Just mention the Columbo special when you call 314-474-2020 or when you book online at ZeroResSTL.com.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Granger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Pizza's here. Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
News, analysis, opinion.
It almost seems common sense, but, alas, common sense isn't so common these days.
News Talk STL.
Love the music you hear on the morning show? Check out Mike's morning music playlist at newstalkstl.com.
Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree? I travel the world and the seven seas. Everybody's looking for something. Some of them want to use you.
The Morning News Dump.
Are you joking? Is this a joke?
Listen, folks.
The Morning News Dump.
All right, here we go. As violence continues to consume the city, St. Louis officials say it again. Darn you, Republicans.
It's our fault.
Yeah.
Don't stop our renaissance.
Julian Assange makes a deal to be set free. And there is an alligator where?
This is fun.
This is funny.
It's funny.
Even though we're talking about an alligator. Closer than you would think. All right. It is 8:21 right now. I'm Mike Ferguson. Got Gabe here. Got Stell here. Okay. Another violent weekend in the city of St. Louis. City officials are making the case that their programs are working. It's working. Mayor Tashara Jones did one of those sit-down one-on-one things with KSDK, and so I lifted a couple of sound bites from their story, which if you can find it at KSDK's website. It's kind of pathetic, but I grabbed a couple sound bites. She says that her office's strategy to rely on social programs and similar outreach efforts is still working. And so when she was asked, what are you doing to make St. Louis safer? Here's part of what she said.
It has to be all hands on deck. And our Office of Violence Prevention has contracted with over 30 agencies, grassroots organizations to prevent and intervene when violence when necessary.
Okay. And she went on to talk about, cognitive therapies and behavioral modifications and all of this. And then she also said that part of the problem is with Republicans in the state legislature.
The blood is on the state's hands. The state has preempted us time and time again on passing common sense gun safety laws on the local level.
I mean, I don't know if there's much that's more offensively, intellectually dishonest than what she said in that soundbite. The blood is on the hands of the state. So you've got a city that has thrown their police department under the bus at every opportunity, that is chronically underfunded, that has bought into the defund. I mean, when you look at the city leaders, including Tashara Jones, bought into the entire Cori Bush movement and everything, the Kimberly Gardner movement, bought into the approach that says we're going to hire social workers instead of police officers. If they had hired social workers in addition to police officers, I'm not complaining about it. I'm probably even saying that's a fair discussion. Let's have it. But when you've got a police department that is chronically understaffed into the triple digits, where in the world do you get the nerve to say the blood is on the hands of the state because they won't let the city violate the Second Amendment?
Yeah, seriously. And let's say the state did pass these stupid laws. Let's say that they actually got what they're looking for in the city, and okay, you can't own a gun in the city. So out of the massively underfunded, understaffed, and underappreciated, and just constantly put upon police department, who is going to enforce your stupid laws?
Right. Yeah, it's unbelievable. Okay, let's talk about some national stuff here. President Biden has approved over 1,000 fewer leases of federal lands for oil than happened during the Trump administration. So they've approved a few, but when you add up the numbers, there are 1,000 fewer leases under the Biden.
That's huge.
And that, of course, is despite the White House saying that they've increased the number of oil leases, which just apparently, which window are you looking at in order to come up with that? Senator John Haven from North Carolina, I think I'm saying his name right. He's a Republican out of North Carolina, reacted to that on Kudlow on Fox Business yesterday.
They're also grossly inflating the number of leases available right now to go ahead and be drilled. That number is a lot lower too. So what in the world's going on here? Unbelievable. And clearly this is something that in the Senate Energy Committee we're going to look into.
I mean, basically the being on defense of the Biden administration right now is to saying, hey, we're trying, look, we're doing what we can. It's not our fault. So instead of we're making it better, it's not our fault, is essentially where they're trying to pivot on some of these issues.
Yeah, they're systematically destroying fossil fuels, the fossil fuel energies, and in all cases, natural gas, oil, and coal. They're all under fire from this administration, and of course, those are the best means by which to get us to the future we want currently under the current technology. But no, they're throwing in all cylinders behind the green energies.
They
push.
used to brag about saying that.
Oh yeah,
we're
absolutely.
transitioning away from fossil fuels. Remember that? Well, now we're seeing the impact of even saying that in the marketplace, and now it's, well, hey, we're approving this stuff. Well,
yeah,
no,
we're not preventing the oil companies from lowering your gas prices. They say from the podium with a straight
we're
face.
just strangleholding the supply.
Yeah.
All right. Biden campaign doubling down on abortion as we head into the debate on Thursday.
President Biden marked the 2-year anniversary of the overturning of Roe v. Wade by emphasizing his support of abortion rights. In a series of social media posts, he repeatedly called for the restoration of Roe and blamed Donald Trump for what he called this nightmare. Trump has repeatedly taken credit for the overturning of the 50-year Supreme Court ruling that guaranteed a right to abortion. However, the former president has resisted supporting a national abortion ban. Greg Clugston, Washington.
And there is something in the election. Younger voters, tragically, are far closer to the left on the abortion issue. And this is going to be one of their refuges, places of refuge when it comes to the election, when all the other issues are working against them, especially for the younger vote.
Yeah, this is one of those areas where the government impact on public perception and the cultural acceptance of the practice was a really major one. So it's going to take years and years, probably decades, to allow the culture to kind of heal from what Roe did to it on some level. And then, of course, we got to do the hard work on the ground in every single state in order to get through to people.
Yeah, Thrive is doing great work, by the way.
Absolutely.
Just pointing that out. Okay, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange set to plead guilty to a felony in a deal with the U.S. Justice Department. Assange's wife, Stella Assange, says, you know what, there's a massive pro-Assange movement as a result of his, 12, 15, 17 years that he's been on the run and in jail.
Throughout the years of Julian's imprisonment and persecution, an incredible movement has been formed, a movement of people from all walks of life, from around the world, who support not just Julian and not just us and our family, but what Julian stands for, truth and justice.
Assange was released from a British prison Monday. He is going to appear in a court this week, basically in a U.S. territory, not in the U.S. He's going to plead guilty to an Espionage Act charge, and that is what we know from the Justice Department letter that was filed in court. And essentially what they're going to do is they're going to seek a sentence that is equal to the amount of time that he's already been in jail in Britain and holed up in the Ecuadorian embassy, where he was basically hiding from the United States, which is about 62 months. And so they're going to seek a sentence of about that and then say, okay, that counts as your sentence.
As much as we would like to pit our stories in government and in the public sphere as good guys and bad guys, I think it's really tough to really denote who the good guys and bad guys are in this particular story.
And there's also mixed items from the good guys and the bad guys.
Absolutely.
Here. Yeah. All right. So apparently there's an alligator in Bonterre Lake.
What? Alligator?
Not kidding.
Local gator.
Yeah. No, I'm not kidding.
Okay.
One of those Midwestern alligators,
Midwest.
Well, I don't know. I heard he got a ticket for a Greyhound bus from Florida and got up here somehow.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you learn the details of it here, I think we can figure out what happened.
Yeah.
Missouri's Department of Natural Resources learned of the gator sighting and has already alerted local police about it. The critter is said to be about 20 inches long. We are told it's not aggressive, but you're encouraged to not find out for yourself. If you happen to be hanging out at or around the lake and see a mini dinosaur running around. I mean, let's be honest. Here's what probably happened. Somebody got one as a pet, as an exotic pet, and figured out that you have to feed those things a lot. They grow very fast, and they just set the thing loose.
Yeah.
Is probably what happened.
Yeah, and they're not really going to be able to catch it until it's pretty sizable. So, we're probably going to be revisiting this story in about 6 years when it's maybe the 3-4 feet range.
And it'll be the Bonterre monster.
The Bonterre monster.
The Loch Ness monster.
Yeah, exactly.
The script for the Sci-Fi Channel is already being written.
Wait, is that a place for some of the radioactive water that we've got running through Little Creek? Is that where it's going?
No,
so
we do not want a Coldwater Creek monster.
The Coldwater Creek monster.
Jeez.
Oh my gosh.
So anyway, if you happen to see a small alligator, I can't believe I'm saying, if you see an alligator in Bonterre Lake, that's for real.
Don't play with it.
Don't play with it.
Just say hi.
But call the authorities because they do want to catch it before it obviously can get too big.
Because in 12 years, it's a 6-foot monster.
Right. Yeah. And then you're wondering where Fluffy, your dog, went. All right. Okay. Finally, the Cardinals have won 4 in a row. Last night, they held off a 9th inning Atlanta rally to beat the Braves. Final score was 4-3. That happened at Busch Stadium. Lance Lynn got the win for the Redbirds. He only gave up 1 run in 6 2/3 innings, so pretty decent outing there. Game 2 of that series starts at 6:45 this evening.
Wilson Contreras back?
He was back, and he batted and he caught yesterday, so Wilson Contreras is back in the lineup.
Good.
And probably setting up a little farther behind the home plate than he was before when he got
so.
smacked and had his arm broken before. All right, what do you say, 8:35? Let's talk about saving America.
Let's do it.
In case you're interested into that sort of thing. Right here, 101.9, 94.1 News Talk STL.
Like and subscribe to us on Rumble. News Talk STL. Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Sweet dreams are made of this. Who am I to disagree? Travel the world and the 7 seas. Everybody's looking for something.
From the Michaels Flooring Outlet Weather Center.
A heat advisory from noon to 8 p.m. today. This is going to be the hottest day of the year so far. 100 in St. Louis. Heat index between 104 and 107. Be careful out there. Also have to be on guard for an isolated strong storm this afternoon, but much higher chances overnight tonight with scattered thunderstorms, some of which could be packing some winds down to 76 overnight tonight. Not nearly as hot tomorrow. The rain shuts down in the morning, and then it's 88 in the afternoon. That's your first alert forecast. I'm meteorologist Matt Chambers.
Fox News commentary.
The White House promotion of Tyler Cherry, a non-binary individual who will now serve as an associate communications director, is raising some eyebrows. I'm Tommy Lahren. More next.
You can host the best backyard barbecue when you find a professional on Angie to make your backyard the best around. Connect with skilled professionals to get all your home projects done well. Inside to outside, repairs to renovations. Get started on the Angie app or visit Angie.com today. You can do this when you Angie that.
When you thought Joe couldn't outdo his streak of DEI picks, the White House threw Tyler Cherry on top. Tyler Cherry, a non-binary individual, will now serve as an associate communications director, but his history of controversial anti-white, anti-Israel, anti-law enforcement social media posts are raising some eyebrows, and for obvious reasons. Well, after some backlash, Tyler Cherry tweeted that his old tweets do not reflect his current view, but note that he wasn't 15 at the time of those tweets, but rather pushing 30. Calling for the abolishment of ICE and sympathizing with terror networks isn't out of the ordinary for that motley crew over there at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Quite frankly, I would probably be more shocked if that team appointed a male who didn't wear a mesh crop top with applique rose petals. I'm Tommy Lahren, and you can watch my show Tommy Lahren is Fearless at Outkick.com.
Rhino Shield is far superior to even the best traditional exterior house paint. Rhino Shield is 8 to 10 times thicker than paint and comes with a 25-year transferable warranty. Rhino Shield is the only ceramic coating company that has been chosen by Disney, This Old House, and 3 times on HGTV's Curb Appeal, where every episode is concentrated on unpainted brick, bonds and seals to stucco, wood, hardy, block, color lock, masonite, and more. No better product for those steel aluminum sided homes that have become, chalky and tired looking. We coat sloped and flat roofs to extend their lives too. After 15 years, we've got a great reputation and a superior product. As long as it's affordable, why wouldn't you do it? Before you make the costly mistake of painting with traditional paint, you'd be best served to call Rhino Shield today. We are the experts and our evaluations are free. 877-25-RHINO or 877-25rhino.com. Tell them, ladies.
Don't paint, don't Rhino, go Rhino Shield. Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
In the fast-paced world of digital marketing, making connections is a challenge for any business. But what if we told you there's a place where connections aren't just made, they're grown? Meet 2060 Digital, your premier Google partner and top-tier digital agency. We don't just follow trends, we set them. At 2060 Digital, we're not just another agency, we're your strategic partner. We dive deep into your challenges and develop solutions that drive measurable outcomes. Ready to elevate your digital presence with campaigns that connect? Google 2060 Digital today.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Wherever I'm at, home, car, wherever.
Download the News Talk STL app.
If you have a phone, you have a radio.
Just the convenience on the phone. Streaming live on the mobile app.
Love the News Talk STL app.
And listen anytime.
Everywhere.
Anywhere. This is 101.9 and 94.1.
I have to tell you, if this is how they're going to behave, I'm rethinking my position.
News Talk STL.
Dan Bongino here. Keep it on News Talk STL because my show starts at 11 a.m. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson.
Give me a word, give me a sign. Show me where to look, tell me what it will like.
All right, if you got your tickets, we want to see you tonight in St. Charles, the streets of St. Charles, the Funny Bone. It's going to be a lot of fun. Joel Griffith and Zach Smith from the Heritage Foundation are going to be with us for Saving America 2024. I'm going to be there. Gabe's going to be there. Joel and Zach are basically all the cool people are going to be there.
Yeah.
So you should be there too.
Except people with really, really long drives and early wake up times, they will not be there.
Like say Stell.
Yeah.
All right. It's 8:36 right now. Hey, good morning. I'm Mike. All right. And Joel and Zach are with us right now. Guys, appreciate you being in here. It's going to be a busy day for you.
Excited.
You already hit up channel 2 a little bit ago.
Start the day.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's kind of interesting because it's a big title for the event, Saving America 2024.
Mm-hmm.
The economy and the courts, and that encompasses so much that's happening. Let me start with the economy aspect of this. We know Bidenomics has failed. We can all feel it. But when people sort of retreat in their partisan tribes for this, it's easy, or it's hard, I should say, to remind people that, listen, policy and politics go together, but policy is what ends up hurting us or getting out of our way. And right now, there's not much case to say that the policy is getting out of our way. I mean, this is really hurting bad, and we need to know what it is so we can know what to do about it.
No, you're right. I mean, families are feeling it's the worst economy in 40 plus years, and we have to have a plan put forward. And we have the answers. Heritage Foundation has done a lot of work on this. We have the answers. It's a matter of whether or not we're going to see politicians move forward with that.
So I know a lot of people who are going to be coming to this event. They're going to be feeling a bit of what do I want to say? Hopelessness, essentially, on some level, because it feels as though we're waiting on a hero to come and save us. But gosh, every time we think we found the one, we think that, if we get this person elected, they're going to help us. They're actually going to get something passed, and we keep getting disappointed one time after another. What can we do? What can we as individuals, as the people coming into the door, what can we take responsibility for in helping to save America?
Well, look, I think we're facing many, many issues today. I think importantly, it's, paying attention to who we're voting for and then holding those individuals accountable. I'll give you a perfect example. Here in St. Louis, you had Kim Gardner as the local elected circuit attorney.
We talked about her a little bit, right, Mike?
She had a few problems while she was in office. But thankfully, because people in St. Louis were experiencing the effects, people cared enough to drill down on what her policies were, cared enough to start raising alarms about those policies. And I don't think you had to look too far to see the consequences of those policies. Ultimately, state officials moved in to hold her accountable, and she resigned from office instead of likely being removed from office. And I think you're starting to see that more and more in many different areas. But I think fundamentally, it's up to us as citizens and voters to pay attention, to know the policies that people are promoting while they're running for office, and then to hold those individuals accountable once they're elected.
How do we get past the R versus D, liberal versus conservative, whatever the divide is, how do we get past that to say, I'm not talking about just one particular politician or one law or one media influence. I'm talking about the things that affect our lives. It cost what, $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 a year, $11,000 a year more just to keep up from where we were a couple of years ago because of inflation. How do we get past that messaging to say, no, here's why we've got to enact some changes, get past all the partisan sound bites and all the ads we're about to see and hear when it comes to the campaign, and really relate to people on that personal level, because they're feeling it too, whether they admit it or not.
Look, I think on that front, then in terms of the cost of living rising so dramatically the last few years, I think it's incumbent on us, including myself. I'm a registered Republican, lifelong conservative. We have to recognize this has not just been the Democrats who've caused the problem that we're dealing with today. If we're talking about the rise in the cost of living and the rise in housing costs, well, let's go back just a few years to the COVID spending, which is largely responsible for the inflation that we're dealing with today. That was passed with near unanimous consent in Congress by Republicans and Democrats, was signed into law by a Republican president, and the central bank printed the money to finance all of that. That was a Republican and Democrat bipartisan so-called solution to a problem we were dealing with, and we're dealing with the consequences. So I hear many of my friends on the right putting all of the blame on President Biden. I'd like to take a step back and say, look, he bears a lot of responsibility. He has made things worse, both with the regulations, the threatened tax hikes, the war on energy. That's true. But let's go back just a few years prior when it was Republicans and Democrats teaming up together. And now we've got a presidential election coming up. And guess what? Neither candidate from the Republican side or the Democrat side will actually put forward a solution to this.
Okay, so let me follow up on that. We had this discussion with an economist yesterday on the program regarding Donald Trump saying, you know what, elect me, and one of the things I want to do is get rid of the federal income tax. We're just going to make other countries pay for it with big tariffs on other countries. Respond to that, because if we're going to call out economic bad ideas, are we willing to do it on both sides?
I mean, first we have to recognize that tariffs are a tax.
Yep.
Anytime that you and I go shopping, whether it's to buy a vehicle or buy clothing, most of those products oftentimes are made overseas, and is largely because we have had this freer trade over the last 40 years. It's because of this that our families today, middle-class families, are far better off than they were 40 plus years ago. We're talking about most families have seen in real terms a rise of $15,000 to $20,000 in real income, largely because we have free trade. So we have to recognize when we see any politician, left wing or right wing, calling for increased tariffs, that is going to be a tax on families. And I think it's a good idea for both people in media and also politicians to point out that as we've seen free trade expand, going back now to the 80s, we have actually produced more. We're just prior to COVID, we were producing manufacturing products at a near record level. So free trade has been good. Now, when it comes to reforming the tax code, if we're looking at tariffs I think there's this notion you can use tariffs to replace income tax, and that's because 150 plus years ago, much of the federal government operations were funded by tariffs. These are relatively small tariffs, but more importantly, federal spending relative to the economy was around 2 or 3%.
Yep.
Now we're at 28%. We've grown eightfold relative to the economy. So they're just, if you want to replace income taxation with tariffs, you're going to be talking about not a 5 or 10% tariff. You're going to be talking of many products, 100% plus tariffs. And for families and businesses, that's just a nonsense.
And then not to mention how much trade you're going to drive away because it's prohibitively expensive.
Now, tariffs are kind of those, I don't want to call it a feel good, but essentially it's a feel good policy. It's like, hey, yeah, get those foreign products, give them an extra little what for just for me. And that's kind of how I've been seeing it sold on the right. Now, are there other areas where we're seeing that kind of feel good policy being pushed that isn't really going to be good for us?
Yeah, so I'll go back to the criminal justice space. I write a lot about criminal justice, crime. And I think if you listen to what many on the left and even what some on the right have said in the past about we need to be essentially compassionate conservatives, I think that's true to some extent. But I think we've moved away from doing what works, from protecting our communities, holding people accountable when they break the law. And you mentioned earlier, Mike, how do we get past this left-right divide? And so many of the issues, crime, criminal justice, that often affects Democratic voters just as much or more than it does Republican voters. If we talk about the weaponization of our legal system, this, apparent two-tiered system of justice that is playing out in places like New York and Washington and so many other places, that affects Democrats and Republicans both. And so I think emphasizing how much these issues affect all of us, regardless of our partisan affiliation, how much it matters who we have in office, again, the policies they're enacting, I think that's an important way to move forward and hopefully bridge some of that partisan divide.
And part of the name of the event tonight, the economy and the courts, Saving America 2024. This is, I want to follow up on that two-tier justice system. We're talking about lawfare and weaponization of the law enforcement and the legal system, because that is beyond just what's happening with Donald Trump.
Right.
I mean, we've seen that over the last 2 or 3 years of the courts and the law enforcement being weaponized. So I think right after this information segment, I want to start there with that.
Okay.
But tonight you're going to be taking questions. Obviously, you've got your own remarks you're going to be giving as well. I mean, we're going to have a really good time talking about the importance of events like this. I mean, why Heritage says, hey, go to the Midwest, hang out with people. We got a radio station down there that's on our side, and let's just talk. What is it that people are going to come out, leave the event with that maybe they wouldn't have when they get there tonight?
I mean, I like the in-person events because it's more of a conversation, both with the host, but also with the audience. And you never know exactly which direction a conversation is going to take during the initial half-hour segment. But when you open it up to the audience and they can actually fill in the gaps with what they're hearing, it takes the conversation in unpredictable directions. It's more exciting.
Fun.
Well, and I think it's always good too, because obviously we have information we like to share with folks when we travel, kind of share what we're seeing from a national perspective, but it's also good for us to hear what is on folks' mind. When we go out to many of these events, sometimes we'll hear the same concerns in many different cities. Sometimes we'll hear concerns that are unique to the people living in St. Louis. And so it's helpful for us as well to kind of know what people are caring about, to hear how the policies that are being enacted in Washington are affecting real lives in real ways. That's helpful for us as we do our work.
Heritage.org is the clearinghouse, one-stop shop here. And Joel Griffith and Zach Smith are with us, going to hang out with us for a few minutes longer here before Vic Porcelli takes over. But I want to start again with the courts and the two-tier justice system and what we're seeing. That's massive right now. Let's start there right around 8:49 on 101.9 94.1 News Talk STL.
Show me where to look, tell me what it will like. We give you news, analysis, opinion, and more. Only on News Talk STL. Show me where to look, tell me what it will like. Mike Ferguson in the morning.
Hey, it's Columbo for Capriotti's Sandwich Shop. Capriotti's is famous for setting themselves apart due to their dedication to superior quality and ingredients like slow-roasted, hand-pulled whole turkey and American Wagyu straight from Snake River Farms. That dedication to superior quality is evident from the very first bite into a Capriotti sandwich. Visit Capriotti's Sandwich Shop 7 days a week at the corner of Manchester and McKnight in Rock Hill, and get more info, including how to impress at your next event with their great catering at capriottis.com.
Tim Jones here with Dr. Pat Fader of Comprehensive Chiropractic. Doc, I hear you all have a new treatment program for everyone's chronic knee pain.
Tim, that's right. We are helping patients with chronic knee pain by addressing the root cause of their condition.
And what makes your program so unique?
Well, Tim, many programs focus on just one component of the problem, the structural component. Our program focuses on the metabolic and neurologic component to complete the picture and improve our patients' outcomes. We get to the root cause of what is driving inflammation in a person's body and address it directly.
For your chronic knee pain and more, visit cchiropractic.com. All information, make an appointment at cchiropractic.com.
Hey, Tony Columbo here for Gutter Pros. When Christine and I bought our new house, we knew the gutters were an issue, and after meeting the Gutter Pros team, we knew that they were right for us. Gutter Pros is your all-in-one gutter service team that offers a variety of affordable solutions, and they even offer free estimates, so there's no cost to you to find out if they are right for your home, just like they were for ours. If you're having a problem with your gutters, contact the Gutter Pros now, because with Gutter Pros, water goes where they tell it to. Call them at 314-656-7195 or visit gutterpros.com.
News Talk STL is proud to have Doug Voss of Safe Money Radio as part of our lineup each week. Doug has been a staple on St. Louis radio for many years as one of the leading financial experts in the area. Doug and Safe Money Radio is on 3 times every weekend, but in case you miss anything, you can check it all out at DougVossSafeMoneyRadio.com or call 844-676-SAFE. That's 844-676-7233. Doug Voss is a registered representative. Securities offered through DHL Securities, LLLP. Member FINRA and SIPC.
On the next Larry Connors USA.
More U.S. Supreme Court rulings are being issued. How will they affect you and your future? We'll have details.
Larry Connors USA. Now weeknights 6 until 8 on News Talk STL. This is 101.9 and 94.1.
Female millennial Trump supporter. I listen to it like every day. Like, seriously, you get it.
News Talk STL.
Hi, it's Randy Tobler here. Pour a big cup of coffee and catch my show every Saturday morning from 6 to 9. Right now, it's back to Mike Ferguson in the morning here on News Talk STL.
All right, the event is tonight. If you've got your tickets, come on out. We definitely want to see you there because not everybody got tickets. So if you've got yours, please come on out and see us. Joel Griffith and Zach Smith from the Heritage Foundation are going to be joining us at the St. Charles Funny Bone at the streets of St. Charles tonight. And of course, Gabe and I are going to be there. I think pretty much everybody on the weekday lineup is going to be there as well. So we're going to see you tonight. NewsTalkSTL.com for more information. Let me pick up where we just left off a second ago. You mentioned the 2-tier justice system. Immediately, especially among those of us on the right, we're going to go, look what's happening in New York. Look what's happening in Washington, D.C., with all the trials of Donald Trump. Right. And a lot of people are using words like lawfare, which I think is fair. They're talking about 2-tier justice systems. I think that's fair. But we also go back to the weaponization of, for instance, the Department of Justice going after threatening families who were speaking up about restrictions in school districts and horrible stuff in the curriculum and basically child pornography and grooming and all the sort. And it was the weaponization of government by government that sort of shined a light on this and exacerbating this. So tonight's event, Saving America 2024, the economy and the courts. We talk about the courts. We've got to talk about what's clearly becoming a politically influenced justice system, because if we lose trust in that, a low trust society and a foundational part of our system, I mean, that goes beyond just what happens in courtrooms. That affects the entire society.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Merrick Garland came into office pledging to be an apolitical attorney general, to reinvigorate an apolitical Justice Department. It's been anything but that. In fact, Merrick Garland has been one of the most political attorney generals in recent memory, if not our nation's history. And if you look at that, you mentioned it, Mike, he's targeting people who are praying outside of abortion clinics and bringing FACE Act cases against them. That's a federal law. Many of these individuals are facing years in prison, and yet, not to my knowledge, has there been any prosecutions of people who have vandalized pro-life centers or Catholic churches or those type of institutions? You've also seen Merrick Garland, the radical individuals in the Civil Rights Division in the Justice Department there, bringing lawsuits to push problematic policies on the states. I'll give you an example. Tennessee has a law in the books that makes it a crime for someone to engage in prostitution while being HIV positive. That's a felony offense. It's very dangerous. The Civil Rights Division sued the state of Tennessee to stop them from enforcing that law because they said it discriminates. It violates the Americans with Disabilities Act for people with HIV. And so you can see these same types of policies playing out again and again and again. And when you see the Justice Department focusing on these types of political issues instead of doing the basic blocking and tackling that would keep our communities safe, again, I think that's what many people find so disturbing, is this double standard that it appears like, anything for my friends and nothing for my enemies type approach, while the very real problems so many of us face are going unaddressed.
I actually spoke with, Kelly Shackelford, for you probably know, from First Liberty. Yeah. And he told me a couple months ago, he said the numbers of the vandalisms of pregnancy resource centers, pro-life clinics, even just churches, usually Catholic ones, because they're a little more aggressive on charitable work when it comes to pro-life stuff. The numbers of the crimes and the vandalism would blow you away. They're just not getting reported.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. And two, if you look at many of the individuals who Merrick Garland's Justice Department is prosecuting, these are people who are going out in the communities trying to help individuals, young mothers who are facing very real crises, people who are literally standing on the sidewalk praying for people that are going into many of these abortion clinics. And yet these are the people that Merrick Garland wants to make federal felons.
What seems like insult to injury to the whole problem with the lawfare issues is that not only are the bad guys basically getting away with it, you got your pro-Hamas people out here vandalizing everything. It's like all the charges are dropped, and then you've got people who haven't done anything, like you said, that people praying outside. They're getting the short end of the stick, but we see some of these individuals, very powerful individuals at the highest levels of government, who have been engaged in all kinds of malfeasance, have caused all kinds of shocking levels.
Shocking.
And by the way, I'm still mad about all the COVID stuff. So Fauci's still walking around, with his massive federal retirement package, and there's no accountability. Not at the low level, and certainly not at any of the higher levels. And that's disheartening for people. Is there a way out of that? Is there a way towards accountability?
Yeah, look, I think you're starting to see a swing back toward that accountability. Look, we talked about Hunter Biden and his gun trial, right? The only reason that even went to trial, the only reason we knew about many of those facts that ultimately came to light in that trial, the only reason he's going to face a trial in September in California is because a federal judge rejected the sweetheart plea deal that the Biden DOJ initially tried to cut him to get all of this to go away. And so I think it's reinvigorating the proper checks and balances in our different branches of the federal government. Congress needs to take a more assertive role in certain instances. They're doing oversight now. They've run into roadblocks, again, from Merrick Garland, among others. And so there's an interesting thing that's going to happen later this week. Merrick Garland, he refused to turn over the special counsel Robert Hur's interviews with Joe Biden. The House held
audio
him,
of it.
the audio. The House held him in contempt and referred him for criminal prosecution. But guess what? Merrick Garland said he wasn't going to prosecute Merrick Garland.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so the House is seeking to potentially revive a very old but very unused yet traditional method of holding government officials in contempt. It's called inherent contempt, to try to balance the power between the different branches of government. So I think you'll start seeing more of those types of actions taking place.
Can I just say, I am so glad he did not make it on the Supreme Court.
Yeah,
like
me too.
This man could have been on the Supreme. Every time I think about that, my blood runs cold.
Well, and then you also have, you mentioned the most, partisan attorney general probably in history. And I'm thinking, and that's saying something considering we had Eric Holder at one point as well. And Janet Reno seems like she's objective by comparison from there.
Well, I would encourage everyone, go look at some of the biographies of some of the mid-level officials in the Justice Department. Kristen Clark, she's the head of the Civil Rights Division there. Look at her biography. Look at some of the past statements she's made. Look at the fact that she essentially lied during her confirmation hearings. And I think it won't come as any surprise at how politicized the Justice Department is.
We're going to talk about that tonight in St. Charles, the streets of St. Charles, St. Charles Funnybone with Zach and Joel. Thank you guys for being in.
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
Yeah, of course.
Looking forward to hanging out tonight as well. So everybody who's got your tickets, make sure you're coming on out. They've got air conditioning in there. It's okay. It's going to be comfortable. Come on in. That's going to be great. The VIP folks I think we're going to start hanging out with them at 5:45. Everything else opens up at 6:30, I think it is. And the event starts at 7. But come on out. We'll let you in. Come on out. We'll see you tonight. Guys, thanks so much.
Of course. Thank you.
All right. Vic Porcelli, going to be here in about 6 minutes on 1019 94.1 News Talk STL. Don't forget, if you're on social media, hit that thumbs uppy, likey thing. It helps our algorithms when Rumble is actually up and running. How's that for filling time?
You did it.
I did it.
So perhaps my work here is done. Perhaps it's time that I moved on to a place where there's stuff to do. Stuff to do.
With so much happening.
I think it was President Reagan said, we're from the government. We're here to help.
So much to talk about.
Our Education Secretary flubbing one of Ronald Reagan's iconic lines.
9 most terrifying words in the English language are, I'm from the government and I'm here to help.
You never want to miss a moment.
There's nothing about this that shows anything good about Hamas.
On air, online, and always on your smart device.
The vast majority of those that were taken captive on that day are still there.
1019 and 94.1 News Talk STL.
Hey everybody, Tim Hawkins here. You may know me from my years in comedy, and I am grateful to God for the platform it's given me, especially for the cause of the unborn. My wife and I have been supporters of Thrive Express Women's Health Care for a long time, and I really can't think of a better ministry to partner with in St. Louis to see parents empowered and babies saved. It's their end of fiscal year, and the dollars that come in up to June 30th will play a huge role in what the next year of ministry will look like. There's a triple match until midnight the 30th. That's thrivealivestl.org.
Jewels on Hampton and St. Louis Hills is paying some of the highest prices on gold, silver, diamonds, semi-precious colored stones, coins, flatware, and fine watches on site. Jewels on Hampton is a premier jeweler featuring